Let us rise and face the east. Hello. Shadala and the Botenu, Abiava Mabies, Kakwabiako, Atakwados, Wishemeka Kwados, Barushemeka, Lamwae, Wishamene, Israel, El Shabbat, so El Shabbat, Doro Tamini Mola, Beni Beni Israel, Tizola, Kisha Sheshem Masa, El Shaddai, Washamayim, where Taharis, Ubayum must be Shabbat, Wanapash, Barushemeka, Barushemeka, Baruturateka, Barukushateka, El Shaddai Malek, El Shaddai Malak, El Shaddai Lolam Mahe. Baruch Shem Kabol Makuto Olam Wahe. Baruch Kabol Lohim Bin Kamom Leke Yom. Aluhu Olam Wahe. First of all, give honor and praise to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the great mighty Mavir God, the Most High God, who bestows loving kindness, possesses all things, who remembers the pious deeds of the patriarchs, the Most High, slow of anger, great in kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgressions, but who will by no means clear the guilty, visiting iniquities of fathers upon children to the third and fourth generation. The Most High's work is perfect, all his ways are justice, the God of faithfulness, and without iniquity, just and right is he. Giving due respect and honor to a head in Israel, chief liaison, to the chief princes, brothers and sisters. I say unto you the tongue of my forefathers, put your hand down. Say the tongue of my forefathers, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom Lekah.
This is another holy Sabbath day. It's something that is required by God. A day that is required by God. And we were required to observe this day and keep this day separated and sanctified from every other day. Keep this day separated and sanctified from every other day. And when you put the Creator first, when you put God first, your emotions don't matter. How you feel don't matter. Your emotions don't count. How you feel don't count. None of that counts with God. Because we was commanded to put God first in all things and in everything. Everything else comes after. Everything else comes after.
That's the order.
That's the order. That's the order that God said. Okay? Everything that is said or voiced should not come from your mind or from how you feel. Everything that is voiced and said, you can refer back to the book and prove what you said. Prove what you said with the book. If I can prove what I said out the book, then guess what? We need to tuck our feelings and put it in the backseat. Humble yourself and say, you know what? You're right. That's it. That's the only way to get better with God. That's the only way. The only way to get better with God is to tuck your feelings and acknowledge. Acknowledge. We have a hard time acknowledging. And we have a hard time acknowledging. But in order to acknowledge, I have to muffle that thing called pride and acknowledge. Because if I don't muffle that thing called pride, I would never have the spirit, or God was not going to put the spirit on me to acknowledge. Put everything aside and acknowledge that you was wrong, because you can be showed in the book that you was wrong. Put everything aside and acknowledge that what that person said was right, whether it fits me or not. Now, what you supposed to do, or we supposed to do. You know what we have to do? We have to acknowledge, number one, that you was wrong. Acknowledge with God that you was wrong. Read the book and you'll see your wrongness. You'll see where you went wrong. But you know why people can't see where they go wrong? Because they don't read the book. God tells you when you're wrong. God tells you when you're right. God tells you what is cursed. God tells you what is blessed. God shows you and tells you everything in this book. And it's up to you to order your life according to this. According to this, before the evil days draw nigh. Before the day of visitation draw nigh. See, that's the name of the game. And people is not going to realize this until it's too late. We have to get ourselves right with God before the day of visitation. Before the day of visitation. Because if we don't, they said the dead can't praise him. Neither do we celebrate. Can't do none of that when you're dead. It's over. So now, while you're alive, let's give God his glory. Let's honor the things that God said to honor. Let's denounce the things that God said to denounce. Then and only then, God will look at you with a special eye. God will look at you with a special eye. But people can't do that because they're so stuck on their self. You know, I say that all the time. And most of the time when people denounce God and dislike certain things in the book, it's because they don't like it. Because they don't agree with it. But if we relinquish pride, if we relinquish self-esteem, if we relinquish ourselves, then we will accept what God says. Pushing aside everything else. Pushing aside my feelings, pushing aside my emotions, pushing aside everything else. This is what we have to do to get acknowledged by God. Not everybody is on the same path. Not everybody is on the same motive. Not everybody is on the same way of thinking. Okay? Because the Creator has panned out everybody's destination. We all have a destination in life. Your path and your destination don't have to be my path and my destination. The only thing that makes our destination the same is when we take heed to this book. When we acknowledge that there is only one God and there is no other God besides him. Who was, who is, and who will be in glory. There's no second to compare to him, to consort with him, without beginning and without end. Without beginning and without end. To him belonging strength and dominion. He alone, the dreaded one, shall reign. Who was, who is, and who will be in glory. That's God alone. That's God alone. He has no beginning. He has no end. He has no beginning and he has no end. Where did you ever hear such a thing? And as long as you live, where did you ever hear such a thing? With that being said, we're going to go into Deuteronomy 22. Deuteronomy chapter 22, chapter 23, and chapter 24.
Deuteronomy chapter 22. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his ass. Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep go astray, and hide thyself from them.
Realize what this is saying. Realize what this is saying. God gave us laws, commandments, and statutes concerning our neighbor, concerning each other. What I should do what I should do to you and what you should do to me. What I shouldn't do to you and what you shouldn't do to me. So God gave us laws, commandments, and state statutes. Gave us laws and commandments telling us how we should treat each other. Yeah, there's a treatment. There's a treatment that comes with doing these laws, commandments, and statutes. So now God gave us a law. Now realize the first 5 books came straight out the mouth of God. It was reiterated, okay? The laws came out of the mouth of God, spoken to Moses, and Moses wrote it. And God preserved this book for thousands and millions and thousands of years to preserve it, because there is still saints in the earth. There is still some holy ones in the earth. There is still some ones that's going to be determined, had that determination to serve God. So God makes sure that he preserved this book so you can save yourself. The only way to save yourself is to do these laws, commandments, and statutes. God gave us laws and told us what we should do for our neighbor's sheep, his ox, his lamb. God said, hold it, because these animals was branded. So I knew who animal it was. So the Most High said, he said, hold it until thy brother seek after it. He said, if you see thy brother's ox or sheep go astray, right? Cause to go astray, what is said to do?
Hide.
He said, don't hide yourself from it. Don't act like you don't know what went down. Don't hide yourself from it. Okay, what else he said?
Thou shalt in any case bring them again unto thy brother.
Go and get it and bring it back to your brother. Because we were herdmen. We were a people that dealt with a lot of herds. We were shepherds. We deal with a lot of shepherds. We were farmers. We worked with the land. And go ahead, time sheet.
2, and if thy brother be not nigh unto thee.
But if thy brother be not nigh unto thee,
or if thou know him not.
Or if thou know him not.
Then thou shalt bring it unto thine own house.
Then thou shalt bring it unto thy own house.
And it shall be with thee.
Bring it to your house and hold it. Hold it until your brother seek after it. Mm-hmm. Guess what? It's never mine. I'm not going to use his ox and his sheep and his mule to put him to work. Because it ain't mine. I have to take that ox, take that sheep, and hold it until my brother seek after it. Then when my brother seek after it, I return it back to my brother. All this is done because you has upheld the laws and the commandments of God. But the only way we're going to accomplish these laws, we got to uphold these laws. We got to uphold these laws to the death. We got to uphold these laws to the death. Not allowing your feelings and your emotions to get in between. And that's the problem with people. You know, that's the problem with people. People read these laws, and because they don't agree with it, they say, well, I don't agree with it. I don't accept this. And then when they hear it, they get angry at God. Because that's number one. When you don't accept this, you don't accept God, number one. But in order to believe that, you got to believe the book. People don't have the belief to accept this. So they're able to go and come. They're able to pull out and come back in. They're able to say, I picked this, but I don't pick that. Because you don't believe God. Your belief is this small. Your belief with God is this small. And it's so small and minute that I'm able to choose what I want to do. I'm able to choose what I want to do. And if I don't want to do this, I won't do it. God said Joshua and Caleb followed him wholly, 100%. There was no opening. There was no breach. There was no opening. There was no breach. What causes that opening and that breach? Sin, iniquity. It taints and blemishes your spirit. It taints and blemishes your spirit. And once your spirit is tainted and blemished, it draws God away from you. It pushes God away from you. It pushes God away from you. So now because God is away from you, now you have thoughts. Unrighteous thoughts begin to develop. Forward thoughts begin to develop. Thoughts that is against God you will begin to develop. Little by little, begin drifting away. Little by little, you begin drifting away. It's a scary thing. It's a scary thing. Time sheet.
And thou shalt restore it to him again. Verse 3. In like manner shalt thou do with his ass.
In like manner shalt thou do with his ass.
And shalt thou do with his raiment.
And shalt thou do with his raiment.
And with all lost thing of thy
with
brothers.
all lost thing of who?
Of thy brothers.
Of thy brothers.
Which he hath lost.
Which he hath lost.
And thou hast found.
And thou hast found.
Shalt thou do likewise.
Shalt thou do likewise.
Thou mayest not hide.
You say, don't hide yourself, man. Don't hide yourself. Go ahead, read.
Thou shalt not see thy brother's ass or his ox fall down by the way, and hide thyself from them.
Because the asses and the oxes were burdensome animals. Yeah. And sometimes you may put so much burden and a load on them that the load is too heavy for that ox. The burden is too heavy for that ox. And once that burden becomes too heavy, all that ox ain't moving after that. You know what you're going to do? You're going to crouch, tuck, and crouch until you unload some of that burden, until you unload some of that load. And guess what? After I'm done of helping my neighbor unload that load, what you going to do? I can't leave it to himself. I can't put it back on the animal. I have to go with him and help him to his journey. Help him out. So this is if we can't care and what's the word? Not appreciate. Consider. If we can't care and consider one another, that person can't do God's law. This law teaches us what to care and what to consider about. That's why God said, he said, man, these people have a heart of stone. He said, these people have a heart of stone, man. How are you from number one, from reading the book where God said you should not make bondmen out of your own people. But we had people and kings that did that. And then they were forewarned. They were warned. If you don't allow your brother and let him loose, Babylon is coming. They go, let him loose. They run back and snatch him back into subjection. At that point in time, nothing could save them. You sending this, nothing could save them. Because the sentence has gone out. The sentence has gone out. And they were warned. You don't hearken to the warning, the punishment comes after. There's a time where God is not going to hear your prayer. He ain't going to hear your supplication. Time sheet.
5. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man.
The woman shall not what?
Shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man.
Okay. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man. That which belongs. Keli geber. Keli geber is deeper. Keli is geber means a male, right? Okay, male. Keli is a tool, utensil, a thing, an instrument, a weapon, an article, artifact, vessel, container. Even falls under a garment. So a utensil or an artifact or a weapon of a male, a woman should not pertain. God put separation between the things of a woman and men things. The woman didn't use the utensil that men use. It was always a separation. Always a separation. That's why when you read in Genesis, Leah and Jacob went into Leah's tent to cohabitate with her. Jacob went into Rachel's tent to cohabitate with her, to have children. Notice that they didn't go in Jacob's tent. They didn't go in Jacob's tent. And that's who God said to follow. He said, follow Abraham, follow Isaac, follow Jacob. Don't worry about whatever you read after that.
Right.
Well, this one did this. Well, what did Abraham do? What did my forefather Isaac do? What did my forefather Jacob do? And you know what God said about those three men? Those three men. God said there was no iniquity found in Abraham. There was no iniquity found in Isaac. There was no iniquity found in Jacob. So it behooves you to follow these men that God spoke so highly about and follow their ways, follow their paths, follow the way they walk and how they did with God, so that you also can be exalted in the heavens and uplifted and looked upon. We dealing with a God that don't change, man. We dealing with a God that don't change. And if we humble ourselves, number one, in order to follow God, we have to humble ourselves. In order to follow God, we have to get rid of pride. In order to follow God, you have to realize that it ain't all about you, which is self-esteem. I esteem myself above. Look, you have people that esteem themselves above God. And that's why you don't accept this. That's why you don't accept the other. That's why you can't accept anything in this book. Because you esteem yourself too much. The flesh. What is the flesh? The flesh that's good, the flesh that's going to rot. That's going to rot. You won't be here too long. We esteem ourselves too much. We esteem ourselves above God. That's pride.
That's pride.
Tamshi.
Neither shall a man put on a woman's garment.
Neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. I can't walk around with no dress. I'm not supposed to be walking around in the attire of a woman. That tells you right there that God is against God is against a man wanting to be a woman and a woman wanting to be a man. God is against that. God is against that. And if God is against it, you have to be against it. We have to train ourselves, and the key word is reprogram. Because we've been programmed already to accept everything else except what God says. We've been programmed to accept everything else except what God says. Now we have to reprogram ourselves to accept the things that God says. We got to reprogram ourselves. But you know, one thing I can say, we are dealing with a people that won't yield. We are dealing with a people that won't yield to God. And if that person won't yield to God, what makes you think he gonna yield to what you say? He ain't yield to God. One part of the book said, man, he ain't even talking to the priest. He said, what you gonna do? What are you gonna tell him? Nothing. It's not for me to tell him. The man won't even listen to the priest.
He don't listen to the head.
Tamshi.
For all that do so are an abomination unto
all
the Lord
that
thy God.
do so is an abomination to God. An abomination is anything that is detestable in the eyes of God. Anything that God hates. We read about the things. Look, man, God gave us a book so that we can learn what God hates, so that we can learn what he loves. And that's how you get to know him. And these are the things that was revealed to us on how to stay away from the things that God hates. We read about it here. It's been on your bookcase for how many years? Collecting dust. But I choose to read a science fiction movie. Mm-hmm. I choose to put my time every other place besides learning about myself and what is my duty with God. Because we got a duty. We have an obligation. We have a duty and the obligation to hold up. The duty and obligation that we are required to hold up, we read about it here in the book. That's it. Tamshi.
If a bird's nest chance to be before thee
in the way. If a bird's nest chance to be before thee in the way. You know birds, they go, they build their nests, and sometimes the nest fall out the tree and it's on the ground. Right? Go ahead, read.
In the way, in any tree, or on the ground, whether they be young ones or eggs.
Young ones or eggs.
And the dam sitting upon the young.
And the dam sitting upon the young.
Or upon the eggs. Thou shalt not take the dam with the young.
Thou shalt not take the dam with the young. The dam is the mother. The young are the chicks. Read. Don't take the dam and don't take the mother and the chicks. Read. The young. Read.
But thou shalt anywise let the dam go.
He said, "Thou shalt in any wise let the dam go."
And take the young to thee.
Take the young to me.
That it may be well with thee.
That it may be well with thee.
And that thou mayest prolong thy days.
And that thou mayest prolong thy days. So you mean to tell me there are keys in here that God told, things that God told us to do that will prolong life. There are things in this book that if we read it, that God told us to do that will prolong life. And there are things that we can do in the book that we can do against God that will shorten your life. You can prolong it, you can shorten it. It all depends on your actions. It all depends on your actions, whether God accepts it or he don't accept it. It's either or. The actions that I've done that was against God, or the actions that I have done that was for God, for his laws, that upheld the Most High and his laws. We can either shorten our life or extend it. That's why he told Moses, he said, listen, he said, Father, he said, life and death. Life and death. He said, you choose. He said, but choose thee life, so that thou and thy seed may live. Okay? Gave us a choice. God gave us a choice. Then and only then he will be able to see and acknowledge whether this is what you chose or that is what you chose. Either or. You know what? God will know what side you on by what you chose. Come see.
When thou buildest a new house.
When thou buildest a new house.
Then thou shalt make a battlement for thy roof.
What book? What book? What religion have you ever heard about laws and commandments and statutes as perfect as this? None. There is no religion that you can refer me to that covers laws, commandments, and statutes. There's no other book, no religion out there that covers this. But you're not going to be able to see it because God got the wool over your eyes. Because your actions doesn't compare. Your actions is not worth. It don't work for me to show you this. It doesn't matter to you. He's going to keep you in the dark. He's going to keep you in the dark until he get ready for you. Until your cup run over. You know, that's the thing. We all have a time. You know, we all have a time. It's ticking. The time ticks. And each and every one of we all have different time schedules with God. You, me, we, us. We must consider our ways and accomplish these laws before your time run out. Mm-hmm. If we don't accomplish these laws before our time run out, hey, I don't know.
When thou buildest a new house, then thou shalt make a battlement for thy roof.
When you build a new house, he said, build a battlement. You know what a battlement is? It's like a edge, a surrounding edge around the whole roof of the house, like a parapet. Go ahead and read.
That thou bring not blood upon thine house.
That thou bring not blood upon thy house.
If any man fall from there.
If anybody fall from there. You hear this? This teaches us to be responsible for our own actions. God said if you dig a pit, make sure you cover it. Don't dig a pit and leave it uncovered and an animal fall in there. Now I got to replace this animal. Don't dig no pit and leave it open and someone end up getting hurt. God said, if you build this house, so make sure you build a battlement around the roof of the house. So that if anybody fall from there, guess what? The blood is not on you. This person literally wanted to commit suicide. He did that on his own. He can't say that I fell off. Because the parapet, this battlement that God said to build around the roof of your house is so high that the only way you can get over that is to climb it. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to climb that and leap and jump and kill yourself, then that's on you. But God said, if you don't put that battlement around the roof of your house and someone fall from there, then that blood will be required by my hands. Tamshi.
Thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with diverse seed.
Thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with two kinds of seed. We have to realize that God is talking about planting. To sow means to plant. I don't want to hear anything else that does not have to do with planting. I don't want to hear nothing about science, because God don't teach me nothing about science. If God was teaching me science, he would have said it here. I didn't read it here. Where God spoke about pollination.
No.
I didn't read it there, so you know what? I'm going to follow what my teacher told me. I'm going to stick to what my father taught me and stick to what the book says. Leave everything else for the imaginations of one's sick mind.
That's correct.
Leave everything else for the imagination of one's sick mind. Mm-hmm. Because your mind, you gotta have a sick mind to want to add on. To want to add on to what God said when it ain't there. Because if I ask you to find it to me, if I ask you to show it to me, you can't find it. You can't find it. So please, don't tell me nothing that I never read here. And if it doesn't coincide with what God said, I don't want to hear it. This is why we got to be careful with the fruits and stuff that we use that is crossed. Yeah. Two kinds of seed. Like a nectarine? Yeah. What's nectarines across with two kinds of seed? I'll never eat that. And if I find out what the fruit is crossed with, I'm going to stay away from it. Apples are crossed. You may have different varieties or different kinds of apples, but it's still an apple. So I will stick to an apple. I will ordain on myself, I will command this of myself to stick to the originality of what God said to stick with, and I will command my household to do so. Because once your household goes aside, God charges the head. You got to realize that, man. If you can't command your household and your household is going aside from what God said, God is going to charge the head because you're responsible. You are responsible for what your house do that is against God. You done allowed it. Can't happen. Time sheet.
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 9. Thou shalt not sow thy vineyard with diverse seeds, lest the fruit of thy seed which thou hast sown and the fruit of thy vineyard be defiled. Thou shalt not plow with an ox and an ass together.
Thou shalt not plow with an ox and an ass together. And I never read in the book where it said because it was an uneven yoke.
No, don't say why at all.
The only place where it specifies why is in Leviticus 19. When you read it in the Hebrew, it says you shall not cross or hybrid or same living quarters or interbreed. They should have different living quarters. So if God is telling you to keep these animals separated, apart, that's why they work separately. You're not going to work an animal with a different animal. Time sheet.
Thou shalt not wear a garment of diverse sorts.
Thou shalt not wear a garment of diverse sorts. As of is an example. As of woolen and linen together. Okay? Now, what verse is that? 11?
11.
Okay. Now, Lotil Bash, Sha'anetz. Sha'anetz is mixed fabrics. That's Zemed Ufishtim. Okay? Linen and woolen. Yakdal. Together. Mixed fabrics. You know what's mixed fabrics? It ain't, at this point in time, it ain't mentioning nothing about a garment. It said, mixed fabrics shall not come upon thee. What comes upon thee? Your garment or your clothes? What else comes upon you? Your sheets, your blankets. So my sheets and my blankets must be 100% cotton, wool, linen, and silk. Okay? And if you are for God and for his laws, guess what else is going to be 100% cotton, wool, linen, and silk? My sheets, the material that I put up for my curtains. I'm not going to buy a couch that is mingled because the fabric that is used to make the couch is mingled. Nowhere in the book says that. But this is something that you have inflicted and put upon yourselves to follow because because of what the law said.
Our fathers didn't do that. That's right. Our fathers didn't do it. That's right.
And sometimes it takes certain things to snap you into reality. Snap you into that reality, into a reality state. Time sheet.
Thou shalt make thee fringes upon the four quarters of thy vesture, wherewith thou coverest thy
four corners. Did it say four corners?
Fringes upon the four quarters of thy
four
vesture.
Quarters. And the Hebrew says kanfe arba, four corners. But guess what? I see a lot of people with fringes and they ain't got no corners. Like, I mean to say, do you esteem that heathenistic apparel that much that you cannot split your garment? You. In the Hebrew it says comfort, four corners of your garments. Mm-hmm. So your garment, your top, if you don't have four corners, put it there. Mm-hmm. Take a scissors, split the side, put fringes on four corners. Everything that God told us to do has a meaning. It's just not explained to us in the book because God didn't give. Sometimes God don't give you an explanation of what to do and why you should do it. He gives you the command. He said, "Do my laws and live."
We have 6 corners.
He said, "Thou shalt."
That's right. Just 4.
We always look for an explanation, and that's a problem. That is certain things. Those are things that Abraham didn't have in him. You didn't have to explain everything. God didn't have to explain every detail to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob. He gave them the command and they followed. Why? Because it was a command from God. That's why. Some things don't have an explanation. Well, I'm just trying to come to understand with certain things you ain't going to understand. Certain things you're not going to understand. Stop asking me for an explanation that I don't even have. That you don't even, that we don't even have. Read the book. It says thou shalt do it. It says thou shalt not, don't do it. Whatever it gives an explanation for, accept it and keep pushing. Whatever it don't give an explanation for, leave it alone.
Just do it.
Sometimes we read about things in the book that God said to do, and we question God. Mm-hmm. We criticize God. Mm-hmm. We question the book and criticize God. You better stop before God leads you into a way that is not going to be nice. That's not going to be nice. Stop questioning God, number one.
Mhm.
Whatever God give you an explanation for, accept it. Whatever he don't give you an explanation for, it ain't for you to know. Push forward, do it, and keep pushing. He said the secret things belong who?
The Most High.
I said the secret things belongs to God. But there's other things that is revealed belongs to men.
Certain things.
Certain things,
To
not
certain
all.
men. To certain men. Not everybody.
Not all. Some sheep.
If any man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her,
If any man take a wife, huh? If any man takes a wife, not a girlfriend. They only took two types of women to themselves: wife or concubine. If you don't look at the woman as such, leave the woman alone. If you don't look at that woman as a wife, leave the woman alone. If you don't look at the woman as a concubine, leave the woman alone, because we have become so lustful. And lustful words come out of our mouth. Lustful mentality. Lustful behavior that God hates and despises. He said, if a man take a wife and do what?
and go in unto her, and
Go
hate
into
her,
her, unto her means he go into her. He has sex with her.
and hate her,
And he hate her.
and give occasion.
Now, this is something that our forefathers didn't do. When the man looked at a woman, he desired her for a wife or a concubine. When they visit, like, because you had prostitutes, but God gave us a law and said, you should not profane thy daughter to cause her to be a whore. So the prostitutes and the whores were not of Israel.
Mhm.
The prostitutes and the whores were women of other nations. God gave us laws and said we should not profane our daughters to be whores.
Don't cause it, don't allow it. That's right.
Don't show me other examples. Okay, now, what am I going to say? If any man take a wife and go into her and hate her, they didn't go into women and hate them. Do you know sex bonds? Sex bonds. Sex locks you in. Yeah. That's what it does. It puts that bond. It's a physical bond between two people, between this woman. And I was reading something. You see, there is certain things that secretes when sex is involved. This is why when a woman has sex, she can secrete something that connects her to the man. Right. That connects her to that man. The men don't have that secretion. Only the woman has that. Only the woman has that. And that's a known fact.
And take a wife, take a position.
He said he hate her. He said if a man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her and do what?
And give occasions of
Time
speech.
out. You know what occasion of speech is? It says alilot. Alilot means false accusations. False accusations. False charges. So when you bring about false accusations and false charges, those are actions that shows and tells me that you hate this person. Because you didn't acknowledge, or you didn't have no knowledge of what the person did. You don't know what happened. You just talking off the side of your brain. You just talking because of your emotions and how you feel. So now He said, don't bring up false charges against her. He said, and give occasional speech, gave false charges or false accusations against her, and bring up an evil name upon her. What was the evil name? And said what?
I took this woman.
I took this woman.
And I came to her and found her not a maid.
When I took this woman and I went into her, she wasn't a virgin. Why it says that? Because guess what? The woman didn't have sex with men if they wasn't their husbands.
That wasn't the lifestyle.
That wasn't the lifestyle of our forefathers. That wasn't the lifestyle of the woman in that book.
That's correct.
It wasn't their lifestyle. Okay? It wasn't their lifestyle. So now you want God to acknowledge you? You want God, you want to draw God's eyes towards you for good? Take on the lifestyle of these women in the book. You want God's eyes to be drawn towards you? Take on the lifestyle of the men in this book. Move like these men and the woman that is in the book. But in order to do that, we got to relinquish self-esteem. We got to relinquish pride. We got to relinquish and get rid of that stubborn, unyielding heart that you have. And pipe yourself down, number one, with God. And when you pipe and yield and succumb and humble yourself with God, then guess who else will see the humbleness? Man will see the humbleness in you. Then, because in order to humble yourself to a man, I got to humble myself with God first.
Won't be able to do it with me.
I won't be able to do it with man if I don't humble myself with God first. God is first. Time sheet.
Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity.
Now this guy here then gave up a false accusation against a daughter in Israel and told and said, man, listen, when I went into this woman here, man, she wasn't a virgin. What the father and the mother did. Go ahead.
He said, the father of the damsel and her mother shall take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity.
The tokens of the damsel, the tokens of the virgin's virginity. All virgins bleed. Okay? When they're penetrated first, she's going to bleed. Whatever that sheet or that blanket or the garment that it is on, I have to take that and give it to my father and my mother. And they're going, and that's proof that my daughter was a virgin when you went into her. Because if there was any false accusations against this woman talking about she wasn't a virgin, the father and the mother has proof. How many women can say that they have their tokens of their virginity? How many, man? So there's a way that God has ordained for women to live. There's a manner, there's a custom that comes with doing these laws. And there's a way, there's a manner, and there's a custom that man should live by. We read about it in the book. Tuck away your feelings and your emotions and tuck that thing away called pride so you can accept everything that God says here. And say, then and only then you can look, pick your head up, and say, you're right. Conform. He said, that's the person making confirmation. I shall not live according to the ways that I used to live no more. I have read about laws, commandments, and statutes that God has ordained for man and woman to live by. And from here on in, I will not live according to my own ways. Say these things. These are things that is upheld in the eyes of God, man. You serious?
Right.
From here on in, I will uphold the word of God And God's word only will I uphold. Relinquishing my pride, relinquishing my emotions, my feelings, how I feel, because it don't count. It don't count with God, man. It don't count with God. We got to learn to let certain things go because God don't accept it. God don't accept it. Tom Sheet.
And lo, he had given the cases of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter of me.
I found not thy daughter of me. She wasn't a virgin.
And yet, these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity.
Now the father went and said, listen, these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. This is proof that my daughter was a virgin when you went into her, because it's her duty. It's her duty to take that up, get that, return it to her father's hands. Tom Sheet.
And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. The elders of that city shall take that man.
Spread the cloth before the elders of the city. Read.
And the elders of that city shall take that man.
The elders of the city shall take the man.
And chastise him.
Read.
And they shall immerse him in 100 shekels of silver.
100 shekels of silver.
And give them unto
he
the
has
father.
to pay. And that payment, that 100 shekels of silver, goes to who? The woman's father that you done accused. Tom Sheep.
And give them unto the father of the damsel, because he had brought up an evil name.
Because you done brought up an evil name upon a daughter in Israel. Tom Sheep.
And she shall be his wife.
She shall be his wife.
He may not put her away all his days.
One thing you gotta realize, man. When a woman marries a man, she really married that man. She really was joined to that man. She didn't leave that man's side for no reason. There's nothing now today. You have bona fide reasons to leave. Now today. Back then, you know why I say that? Because you may have married a man that's not godly.
Right.
You may have married a man that's going to push you towards serving and doing things that is not godly. And that's the only thing that I will condone when a woman leaves a man, when her husband is pushing her or wants her to do things that is against God. Now I got to go now, because you have to put the Creator number one. The Creator is first. Tom, see?
Then they shall bring out the damsel to the door.
Bring out the damsel to the door
of her father's house.
Of her father's house. Wait a minute. Do you know the significance in that? The Most High said in this one of his chapters, he said, when you're doing a sacrifice, when you're sacrificing a lamb or a sheep or an ox, he said the first place you take that lamb, sheep, or ox is at the entrance, at the door of that temple, of that sanctuary. That's where that's where you go when you're sacrificing these when you're doing the sacrifice of God. So there shouldn't be no sacrifices going on, because there is no more temple. Look what God said. He said, listen, this woman has violated her father by playing the whore. She shall be bought. Go ahead, read.
But if this thing be true, the tokens
of
virginity be not found
and
for the damsel. And you can't
find the tokens of virginity for this damsel.
Then they shall bring out the damsel to the door.
Bring the virgin out to the door of her father's house.
The men of her city shall stone her with stones.
And the men of the city shall stone her with stones. You know why God said stone her with stones? Because she was playing the whore. Because she was having sex and not married. Because she was sleeping around with Tom, Dick, and Harry. Listen, it ain't got to be Tom, Dick, and Harry. She could be sleeping around with one man. But her father didn't condone it. You're living in my house and I'm thinking you're a virgin. I didn't marry you to that man. And the children that comes within that is not accepted of God. we gotta take our feelings and muffle it. God says stone her. Guess what? I accept it. I accept it 1,000%. God says stone her. Hey, if it's okay with God, it's okay with me. Why? Because she done violated. She had no business sleeping around. And her father didn't marry her off to that man. Time sheet.
Because she hath wrought folly in Israel.
She had wrought folly in Israel.
To play the whore.
To play the whore.
In her father's house.
In her father's house.
So shalt thou put away evil from among you.
Uh-huh.
If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband.
If a man be found lying or having sex with a woman that is married, Tom Sheep,
to a husband,
uh-huh,
then they shall both of them die.
We both gotta die. The man and the woman. Because the man done had sexual relations with a woman that is married. So now we both gotta go. There's a death penalty for the man and the woman. And people that don't know God, people that don't know God and his laws, we mess around with fire. We playing with fire. We playing with things that God said you should die for. You know why? Because you don't know. And guess what? God don't care too much about you to inform you or bring you towards this way, to show you what you did that was against God. This is what we got to realize, man. This is what we got to wake up and realize. We got to put our emotions aside and realize and understand and accept the things that we read in this book before the evil days draw nigh. Tamshi.
Both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. So shalt thou put away evil from Israel. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto a husband. If a virgin that is betrothed, that is engaged to who? To a husband. To a man, to a husband. And a man find her in the city. A man find her in the city. And lie with her. And have sex with her. Then ye shall bring them both out unto the gate of that city. Bring them out to the gate of the city. And ye shall stone them with stones. God said kill them. Because God treats engagement and betrothal the same as marriage. Yeah. If this woman is betrothed or engaged to a man, she's supposed to be untouched. Yeah. If I go and I touch her and I go into her, we both die. Tamshi. Then ye shall bring them both out unto the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not. The damsel, because she didn't cry out. Being in the city. Read. And the man, because he hath humbled his neighbor's wife. He done humbled and went into his neighbor's wife. So thou shalt put away evil from among you. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her and lie with her, then the man only that lay with her. If a man force her and lie with her, she's betrothed, but the man forced her, which means he has sex with her against the woman's will. Against her consent. She didn't consent. Go ahead, read. But unto the damsel, thou shalt do nothing. The damsel, I don't touch. He said, but what? There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. There's no sin worthy of death. For as when a man riseth against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so is this matter. For if he found her in the field and the betrothed damsel cried, and there was none to save her. If a man found a damsel that is a virgin which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife. Because you slept with her, you're going to marry her. You're not going to sleep with my daughter and not marry her. And you got to pay the father 50 shekels of silver. And she shall be his wife. Because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. There's no divorce. He may not put her away. He can't divorce her. No, God hate divorce. God hate putting away, man.
He said, you know why? He said, because I didn't divorce you. I didn't put you away, O Israel. No matter what you did, I never was done with you. I never had put you away. Now today you got a divorce. Now today you may have to put away this woman.
People are different, man.
Because the people is different times. Even God said if you have to divorce, if you got to put away, he said by all means do it. But he's letting you know that he hated when a man had to put a woman away or divorce his woman. Tamshi?
Then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's barber 50 shekels of silver. She shall be his wife because he had humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. A man shall not take his father's wife, nor discover his father's skirt.
A man shall not take his father's wife,
nor discover his father's skirt.
Nor discover his father's extremity. That's deeper. You know what extremity is? It's not even, it goes deeper than just sex now. Discovering your father's skirt is when you have sex with the woman. Right. Now, he said, now you can't even reveal or discover your father's extremity. In the Hebrew it says, because the extremity goes as far as like the calves. Sleeveless shirt, you're showing your arms. Our forefathers dressed a certain way, man. The woman dressed a certain way. They dressed a certain way. And the way we dress today is not accepted of God. It's not accepted. Like today, you have women, Israelite women that know who God is. Now you see them wearing pants. When pants is a masculine word, there is no, you have a masculine and a feminine in Hebrew. Feminine when it's referring to women, masculine when it's referring to men. And when you read about pants, miknasayim, there's no feminine word for miknasayim. No. There's only a masculine word. Women did not wear pants. Sweatpants is pants. Tights is pants. All that stuff is pants. And God hates it. God hates it. Nothing you can do to make that, to feminize that. God hate and despise these things. But now you have Israelites wearing pants, doing things that God don't accept. Why? Because these people, again, have a different destination with God. Their destination is not to be upright. Their destination is not to be perfect with the Creator. That's not the world's destination. That's not people's destination. Very few has that. Very few has the determination to serve God and do this thing with perfection. You're not going to find that with everybody. Come shake. Deuteronomy chapter 23. Read on.
He that is wounded in the stones.
The stones is what? Your testicles.
Or hath his private member cut off.
Now, those testicles, do we realize what's inside those testicles? Life. You know what's inside those testicles? Male and female chromosomes. Whoever I wanted or chose to have my seed with, have my kids with, I put them in you. I didn't have to put them in you. I could have chose a different oven to bake this cake. It's my seed. You only held it for 9 months. I had these seeds with me. I had these male and female chromosomes since the day that my mother pushed me out.
That's right.
Until it started to develop.
Yes.
Because this is something has to develop in men.
Yes.
When I was born, I didn't have it yet.
That's right.
Yeah, you don't have it yet.
That's right.
In time, it develops within you.
Yeah.
You see the work of God? The work of God and the mind of God and his mind and his thought pattern, we will never reach that height or thought pattern that God has.
That's right. That's right.
Never. Never. Now, read this now. Who was the first lady to wear pants? Eleanor Roosevelt, right? Became the first lady to appear in trousers as a formal function, presiding over the Easter egg roll in 1933, wearing riding trousers, a consequence of not having time to change after an early morning ride.
She didn't feel like changing. She put on the man's
You understand that?
after that.
So it's not a good thing to be walking around here in these tight jeans, sweatpants, tights. And only a woman that wants to do what God says will come out of it. Okay, you hear what I'm telling you? Not all women, because it takes a certain type of mindset to come out of that despicable attire that God hates.
Okay.
Yeah, God hated it because he didn't give that to you. The woman in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, they didn't wear pants. I just told you what year it came and who was the first woman to put on pants.
Recent too.
But as you were, because God did give you a choice. He said, you choose life or death, good or evil. He said, but choose life so that thou and thy seed may live. So it's your choice. The only thing that I have power over is my house. I have to command my house. I have to put my foot down in my house. I have to command my house and put my foot down in my house towards God, towards his laws, towards his commandments. Tom C.
Or have this privy member cut off, shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord.
Man that is wounded in stones or had his privy member cut off, which means he has no organ here. Everything is gone. Those are what you call eunuchs. He said, a man that is wounded in stones or had his privy member cut off shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. He will not be accepted of God. You cannot be accepted of God. Okay? Go ahead, read.
A bastard.
What is a bastard? You know, people say a bastard is when a child is born without a father. That's not what a bastard is. That's a fatherless child. That's a child without a father. He's fatherless. And God also have a certain manner of how you deal with the fatherless of your own people. Okay? Yatum. A yatum is an orphan. A yatum is a child that is unprotected. Is a child that don't have a mother or father.
Right.
And a bastard is a child of incest. Incest, an evil bed, a child in adultery. Right? It also means not sanctioned by law, not according to the curriculum that God set. It also is an illegitimate child. An illegitimate child is what? Born of parents not married. When you didn't marry this woman and take her to yourself, and y'all have children out of wedlock. Okay? And that's what you call a bastard. Okay, Tom C. So a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord.
Even to his 10th generation.
Even to his 10th generation.
Shall he not enter into the congregation?
Shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord?
An Ammonite or Moabite shall not enter into the congregation.
An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord.
Even to their
Who is Moab and Ammon? Moab and Ammon were Lot's children. Moab and Ammon were Lot's children. And the sons of Lot. And do we know there are people that came out of Moab and Ammon that God accepted? There are people that came out the line of Moab that God has accepted. You know why God accepted them? because they accepted God. So that's why he says to them, listen, I am a God for what? For all people. To all. And I change not. He said, therefore, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. So if whether you're now, whether you are whatever nation you are come from or you are from, if you accept God, God will accept you. God will accept you. Don't matter who it is or who you are. No matter what color you are, God will accept you.
A Moabite or Ammonite or Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord, even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever. Because they met you not with bread.
Because they have not welcomed you. Because they didn't have no courtesy. Because they wasn't affable. Okay? What is welcome? What is courtesy? What is affable? To greet hospitably, peaceably, with courtesy, with cordiality, tending to revive or cheer up. That's cordiality. Which means you don't bring a person down. And these things we do with our mouth. These things we do with our words that we speak out of our mouths. All right? Courtesy is polished manners. Polished manners. That's your behavior. There's a way that God has ordained for man and woman to behave in a certain manner. That is according to what God says. Okay? Realize that. Everything that you're saying or that you're voicing or the way you're thinking, make sure it's in the curriculum and the standards that God has set. Don't tell me I violated when I didn't violate God. You didn't like it, but it's okay with the Creator, so don't tell me I'm wrong. I said, you don't like it, but God said it's okay, so don't tell me I'm wrong. And in order to tell me when I'm wrong, you got to know the book. You got to be reading this book so you can channelize your thoughts that you think, whatever you think is wrong or whatever you think is right. And you'll be able to channelize it and compare it to what the book says. So whatever you said is wrong or right, I got to be able to read it in the book to tell me whether it's right or wrong. Because it's written here. This is the source. This is the source. Tamshi. This is the source that God commanded us to follow. Tamshi.
Because they met you not with bread and with water in the way when you came forth out of Egypt. And because they hired against thee, Balaam the son of He
said affable, being pleasant, and at ease in talking to others. And everything I show you, I can show you an example in the book. Remember the time with Nabal?
Yeah.
Remember the time with Nabal when David sent 200 men? Was it 200? He sent 200 men to get some food. And Nabal railed on him. You know how he railed on him? With the words that he said out of his mouth. It wasn't pleasant words. That tells you right there that God was against it. If you have read that before, it will tell you God is against that. Okay, Tamshi.
And because they hired against thee, Balaam, the son of Beor.
Balaam, the son of Beor.
Of Pethor.
From Pethor.
Of Mesopotamia.
Of Mesopotamia.
To curse thee.
To curse thee.
Nevertheless, the Lord thy God will not.
Balaam was a warlock. Balaam was a man that did witchcraft. Balaam was a man that did divination. Balaam was a man that foretold the future. Balaam was a man that was able to curse a whole nation. But who got in the way of that was God, because at that point in time, the children of Israel were perfect with God at that point in time. They were perfect with God at that point in time. So he didn't allow Balaam to curse this nation. He didn't allow Balaam to curse the people. We didn't deal with divination, palm reading, telling me, giving the warlock. We did the same thing. He just gave the whole nation up. We didn't give up the whole nation, but I may go to the warlock and say, man, I'll give you this guy's name. I want to know something, whatever against about this person.
I want to know my man.
Yeah. And you know what? Those things taint your spirit with God. Those things put a blemish on your spirit with God. Certain things you can't come back from. Certain things God will not allow you to come back from. Because your spirit, you done did something to blemish and taint your spirit. We done did something that God gave us a command and told us to stay away from. He said, don't go that way, man. Don't go that way. Then he gave laws. He said, man, remove all the witches and the warlocks out the land. Get them out of here. Remove the sodomites out the land. Remove these people out the land. That's why God gave us laws. He said, let's listen here. Plaster these laws upon Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, millions and thousands of miles away. Blessing and curses. Go ahead, Tom Shee.
Nevertheless, the Lord thy God would not hearken unto Balaam, but the Lord thy God turned the curse into a blessing unto thee, because the Lord thy God loved thee.
Because at that point in time, God loved us. You know what that is? If God loved you, why did God love these people at this time? Because there was no iniquity found in Israel at that time. We serve and pray to a God that hates sin. We serve and pray to a God that hates iniquity. The only way we're going to know what is iniquity, what is sin, we got to read the book. The book shows us what is iniquity and what is sin. The book shows us that. You can't tell me I'm wrong if God didn't say I was wrong. What part of that don't you understand? I'm not wrong because you said it. I ain't wrong because you said it. Because you're nothing. I'm nothing. You are nothing, and wait. We need to realize that we are nothing in the eyes of God. I am nothing in the eyes of God. I can't make you see that. I can't make you see that. You got to see that with yourselves. I see and I acknowledge that I ain't nothing in the eyes of God. So therefore, that has allowed me to muffle my esteem, to muffle my self-esteem, to remove self-esteem from myself so that I can accept every word that I read out of this book. Remove self-esteem so that you can accept everything inside this book to be lawful and right by God. Or prepare yourself for what? To prepare yourself to meet your maker. Whether it's 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, days from now. But we all going to that place. We all gonna meet God one day. We're gonna go the way of all men. And you know that man Ezra cried out. Ezra cried out, man. He said, man, Adam, what did you do, Adam? He said, look what you done did, man. He said, because you ain't the only one that's suffering from this. He said, we all suffer. Everybody, the inhabitants of the world is suffering from this for one man's actions. One man's actions. We all are suffering. Now we all gotta die. So now God done made the road real narrow. Real narrow. He made the road so narrow that only one man can fit through that narrow path. And every once in a while, you see a traveler. I said, every once in a while, you see a person walking through that narrow path. You know what that means? That means the world is not going to choose God. You understand that? The world is not going to choose God. The world is not going to choose the laws and the commandments of God, which will, look, man, the world ain't going to choose God. So you ain't going to find
That's a dream.
everybody in that narrow path. You're not going to have everybody with that determination to serve God, because the world is not going to choose. That path is so small that every once in a while you see a traveler.
The other path is full.
Every once in a while you see a traveler. But that wide path,
It's the world.
Oh, man.
there's so many different diverse people in that path.
And they made the decision.
Talk about it.
And that path consists of people that have not decided. They are undecided.
Oh, yeah.
They're living their own ways. They're so filled with their own selves. That's the path. This is the ways of that broadened path. But the path, that narrow path, that every once in a while you find a traveler, he has relinquished pride. He has relinquished self-esteem. He has relinquished vanity, all for the sake of God, to follow his laws, commandments, and statutes. He has denounced and pushed himself aside, because what I say don't count, how I feel don't count. The only thing that counts in that person's eyes is what God says. That's it.
That ain't for people today.
That's it. Tamshi.
Thou shalt not seek their peace nor their prosperity all thy days forever.
Who? Moab and
Moab and Ammon.
He said, don't seek their peace nor their prosperity. Read.
Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy
Now-
brother.
Go ahead. He said, thou shalt not what?
Abhor an Edomite.
Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite. He said, don't hate Edom. Don't hate Esau. God don't hate Esau. He said, don't hate him. And one thing we got to realize is that Esau is not the white man.
No.
When Esau was born, Esau was not white.
Yeah, color.
He had color. Esau was a man of color. He was just red.
Red, red, light skin.
He was just reddish. He was like a reddish brown complexion. But he's not the white man.
What they call a red bone today.
Edom. When we read in certain books, in certain chapters, in certain prophecy, King David had the same complexion as Esau.
Same description.
Same description.
Same word.
Say it was ruddy.
Right.
Solomon had the same complexion as Esau. So you cannot determine who is Israel by their color. Not all black people is Israel.
Was it that then? Was it?
Because the first world was black. The first color change began when a certain people migrated. See,
Northern. Yeah.
when God flooded the earth and replenished the earth through 3 men, God had to flood the earth. And there is examples and proof that there was a flood in the earth, because scientists and archaeologists found seashell on the highest mountain.
Yeah, dinosaur bones up there.
Dinosaur bones on the highest mountain.
Trying to get away.
And they found the ark. Was it the ark
Yeah.
that Noah built? It was in Turkey, Mount Ararat. They found that. And guess what? They was allowed to go in. The things that they saw in there, God has left for proof, to prove that my word is real. God's word is real. It went down and it happened. So God flooded the earth and replenished and filled the earth up by 3 men.
Yeah.
Noah, Shem, and Japheth. Shem inhabited Asia, went into the continent of Asia. Ham migrated into Africa, and Japheth went into the cold region, into Europe
Northern.
and northern region. Generations and generations and generations done pass. It's a cold climate. After hundreds and hundreds of years, guess what? You will begin to lose melanin. You will begin to lose melanin, and the kinks that's in my hair will begin to straighten. Because there's no sun. It will get more straightened. And that's what took place.
Adapt to the climate.
You will. That's right. God has developed the human body to adapt to the climate, and that's what took place. Tamshi.
Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor.
He said, "Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian because what?
Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian.
Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite." He said, "Don't hate the Edom. Don't hate Edom." He said, "Because he's thy brother. He's your brother." God said He hate him, but He gave us the law and said, "Don't hate him. Don't despise him." See, we got to realize that we are not God. We can't do what God do. We got to stay in our place.
Can't say what he said.
We got to stay in our place and refrain ourselves from doing things that is not godly. Tamshi.
Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian.
Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian.
Because thou wast a stranger in his land.
Because you was a stranger in his land. Here, godliness and righteousness. Understand and be able to pick out the things that are godly and righteous when you read. That is a gift from God. That is something that God has to give you distinctively. Able to pick out the things that is holy and righteous and godly when you read. So what that mean now? There's a point. There's a point that has to be made. Read it over again.
Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian because thou wast
He
a
said,
stranger.
don't hate the Egyptian because you was a stranger
in his land.
In his land. We served the Egyptians for 430 years. So what is godliness? Godliness, the godliness that's in you has told me that because I lived in your land, it prohibits me and stopped me from hating you. I can't hate you because I lived. You took care of me for 430 years. Let's bring it back to today. I lived with you. You took care of me. You fed me, and you held me down until I was able to move out and get my own place. I will never turn against you. I will never turn against you. That's godliness. That's righteousness. And that's what the men of today need to realize. See, there's a way and there's a manner that God expects from us men. There's a way in the manner that God expects from women. Read the book. Ask questions. Because your understanding of what about God is this small. That's why I say that? Because God gave everybody a guide.
Everybody.
You know what the guide is? The guide is going to show you and bring you towards God, bring you towards righteousness. People think they understand. I understand it. No, you don't. You think you understand it. Oh, it's self-explanatory. You think it's self-explanatory. Half of it hasn't been told. So when you read, don't think you understand nothing. Because your knowledge of God cannot be compared to a person that's been in this way of life since birth. His knowledge of what God's mean or what it says here is going to be far and way above yours. So when you read the book, it behooves you to ask questions. Tamshi.
The children that are begotten of them.
Shall
enter into the congregation of the Lord in their third generation.
So if God accepts them, then we got to accept them. That's godly. These are the ways of God. This is the mentality of God. This is the way God thinks. And if you want to be godly or godlike, then I have to program myself to think and move like unto God. That's why the Most High looked at David. He looked at David. He said, man, this man here is something else. He said, this man have a heart like me. This man got a heart like me. He got the bountiful eye. He was born with that. It was he had that in it. Wasn't something that he had to develop. David had that quality, that characteristic in him from a baby, which caused God to turn towards that child. Tamshi.
When the host goeth forth against thine enemies.
When the host go forth against thine enemies.
Then keep thee from every wicked thing.
Keep thee from every wicked thing. Right? And what? Dabad. And what? Right? What verse is that?
Verse 9.
Okay. When the host goeth forth against thine enemies, then keep thee from every wicked thing. Okay? And the word for that is what? It's I'll tell you right now. Okay? Dabara. A thing. Dabar. Keep thee from every lie is wicked. Dabar is a thing, a word, or saying. Keep thee from every evil saying. Keep thee from every evil word. Keep thee from every wicked thing. Because there's a word that a person can voice that God will look at and say is evil. That's why you hear me, sometimes you conversate with people and you tell the person may say something that is contrary or against God, and it make you almost turn your neck into a 360. Whoa. You almost caught whiplash. Where did you even get the courage to say or voice certain things that is against what God says? He said, keep thee from every wicked word. Certain things aren't supposed to be voiced out of your mouth. Certain things aren't supposed to be said out of your mouth. Because these things and these words and sayings that I done said out of your mouth or out of my mouth will put a wedge between you and God. It will put a deep wedge between you and the Creator. But do the person care? Do people care? No. We don't care because we only care about ourselves and our own feelings. We don't care about how God feels. We don't care about how God feels. We read about things about what God feels about and what he don't feels about. Everything in here we read about, and it shows you what he accepts and what he don't accept, what he denounce and what he don't denounce, what he love and what he hates. But the people don't care. The people don't care. Don't care. Tamshi.
If there be among you any man that is not clean by reason of
uncleanness. If there
uncleanness.
be among you any man that is not clean by reason of uncleanness, that chanceth him by night. Now what is that? Nocturnal emission. I done went to bed and I had a wet dream. I had a nocturnal emission. I had an emission that happened by night. All right? And the seat of copulation has left me. When the seed of copulation has left me, I am unclean. I'm unclean. The seed of copulation is what made me unclean. Okay, Tamshi.
that is not clean by reason of uncleanness that chanceth him by night, then he shall go abroad out
He shall
of the
go
camp.
abroad out of the camp. He shall go outside of the camp. He cannot be within the camp because your presence alone will defile everything. That's why he said, listen, immediately when that seed of compilation comes from you, he said, you got to go. You got to leave from amongst the ranks. You got to leave from amongst the camp. Go outside of the camp. Tamshi.
He shall not come within the camp. But it shall be when evening cometh on.
And it shall be when evening cometh on.
He shall wash himself with water.
Go wash. Wash with water. It don't say that I need soap. The thing that caused the cleansing is the water. Go in the water, wash myself. Read.
And when the sun is down,
when the sun go down,
I shall come into the camp again.
I can come back in the camp.
Thou shalt have a place also.
I shall have a place also
without the camp.
Whither
thou shalt go forth abroad. And thou shalt have a paddle upon thy weapon. And it shall be when thou wilt ease thyself abroad, thou shalt dig therewith and shall turn back and cover that which cometh from thee.
This is why you're not going to catch me outside in the streets on my knees talking about I'm praying to God. Right where I kneel down, a couple steps forward, I got dog feces.
Everywhere.
When I look to my left, cat feces. I got feces and urine all over the place.
Pampers.
And God, I can't call on God when fecal matter and waste is around. That's why God said, listen, make sure you cover that which comes from you. There was a designated area, a designated spot where they went to relieve themselves. They had to leave from amongst the boundaries of the camp. You have to go outside of that. Go ahead, read.
For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy.
Therefore shall your camp be holy.
That he see no unclean thing in thee and turn away from thee.
That you see no unclean thing in thee and turn away from thee. See, there's a lot of things that we can do that will cause God to turn away from us. And God gave us the keys in life, the keys to life, what to do to draw near, and what you do, the things that we can do to push God away. We don't realize that, man. We don't realize that because, again, our belief in God is very small. Our belief in God is very small. You're still hung up on your past. You still think Lulu is God. You still think the guy on the cross is God. You still think the gods that you've been introduced to is your God. So you're not going to believe this because it's against everything that you was taught.
It's against your principles.
Everything that you was taught, your own principles that you have been shown and believed, that your parents done showed you, God is against it. But you refuse to go against those principles that you was raised with. You refuse to go against those principles that you were raised with. Who showed you these principles? Parents who had no knowledge of God, and God saw fit to open your eyes to this. God saw fit to open your eyes to this. Some people He open your eyes to show them this, but they still won't hearken. So and why God did it that way? So that you cannot you can't say that you didn't know. You can't say that you didn't know. Tamshi.
Thou shalt not deliver unto his master the servant which is escaped from his master unto
The
thee.
servant that has escaped from his master, I can't deliver back the God back
Yeah,
to his
turn him
master.
in.
Can't turn him in. Tamshi.
He shall dwell with thee, even among you,
He shall dwell with thee, even among you,
in that place which he shall choose,
in the place where he shall
in
choose,
one of thy gates,
in one of thy gates.
where like it him best.
Where he so choose, where he likes him met.
Thou shalt not oppress him.
He said, don't oppress him. Don't do him wrong. Read.
There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel,
Uh-huh.
nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel.
Okay. Now, there shall be no whore of who?
Whore
Of the daughters
of
of
Israel.
Israel. So the whores and the prostitute were not of the daughters of Israel. They were foreigners. He said, nor a sodomite, a Qadesh, right? Of the sons
of Israel.
of Israel. What is a Qadesh? What is a sodomite? Men that desires their same sex. Men that desires the same sex. You desire the same person that look like you. God is against that. Okay, now, copulation with the same sex. That's what you call a sodomite, right? Or with an animal. Non-coital. And especially anal and oral sex. Non-coital is having sex except through a woman's private part. You have sex any other way except from what God has shown
That's
you.
the only place.
They didn't have oral and anal sex. Okay? Men didn't. It is against the law for a man to desire another man.
Right.
It is against the law for a woman to desire another woman.
Right.
And when people move in that manner and that accord, you can't accept that. You can't accept that. You know what a person came and asked me yesterday, Friday? What would you do if you had a son that turned out that way? I said, to tell you the truth, I would have to denounce him. I will denounce him. You know why? Because God is first. And I'm not going to choose him and show affection and my emotion towards him, and God hates him. God despises him. Because he had chose to walk in the way that God did not choose. So if I have a son or a daughter that turn to the same sex, I don't want nothing to do with them. I have to push them away. Live your life. It's like I ain't have a son. It's like I ain't have a daughter. That's when you're determined to serve God and keep his laws. Only people with that determination is going to do such and come up and do such things. A lot of people say, no, to each his own. Yeah, of course, to each his own. Of course, God gave him a choice, but God still told me not to accept it. I'm not going to accept it because God don't accept it. You can accept it if you want because you also have a choice. I'm not accepting it, and I'm not going to accept you. And guess what? Nobody that is a sodomite will be allowed in my house. That's it. Time sheet.
Thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore or the price of a dog into the house of the Lord.
I can't bring the hire of a whore. When a woman go and prostitute herself for money, I can't take that money to buy a lamb for a sacrifice. Or the price of a dog. I can't use that money God don't want. Not all money is good money.
Say it again.
Not all money is good money. There's some money that God said, listen, I don't want it. And I don't want nothing that comes from that. I don't want nothing that comes from that. Time sheet.
Into the house of the Lord thy God for any vow. For even both these are an abomination unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother.
Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother. Read.
Usury.
What is usury? Usury is interest. Usury is your brother owe you 20. Next week he got to give you 40. That's usury. I go and I give you 50. You got to give me 70 back. He said, neither shall you add increase. When I come to pay you back your $20, I say, here, hold $10 for letting me hold that 20. Now it's up to you to say, well, oh, I don't want nothing extra. Why? For the sake of the law.
Right.
Only for the sake of law, for the sake of the law, why a man would do such a thing. Why a person would do such a thing. Why a person would move in a manner, in this way, or in a certain manner that is only accepted of God. Tamshi.
Even both these are an abomination in the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother, usury of money, usury of victuals, usury of anything that is lent upon usury. Unto a stranger, thou mayest lend upon
what verse
usury.
is that? Unto a stranger, 20. Unto a stranger, thou mayest lend upon usury. Right? Now, the word for stranger is nakri. We did not lend usury to a stranger, to the geber that has come to terms to serve God. The nakri is the foreigner, the alien. God said you can give it to the alien or the foreigner. God said you can do that to other nations. God said that. But if you chose not to do it, that's your choice. But if I do it, I don't sin. I don't sin. Because I made sure I kept myself in the curriculum of the laws of God. In that standard, in that path of what God said I should be in. Tamshi. See, one thing we got to realize is that I'm not here to please you. God didn't put me here to please man and woman. The only one I'm here to please, number one, is God. Number two, my parents. That's it. I'm not here to please my children because God said for the children to honor me. I'm not here to please my wife, even though men do things to please their wife, but that's their choice. That's out of love when you consider your wife. And that's natural. God ain't have to put that there. That's automatic. Once a man loves a woman, he's going to consider her. He's going to do it to her. But he also gave the woman a command. He said, your desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee.
Accept what he did. Accept.
Okay? It wasn't a law that stated, see, that certain things is just going to be automatic between a man and a wife, between a man and a woman.
That's the way.
That's just the way. Yes, it's going to come a time through time, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, that a man will grow to love his woman. Yeah, he's going to grow. He said, Abraham loved Sarah. There's nothing wrong with loving your woman. And in loving your woman, you're going to consider her and care for her. In loving your woman, you're going to be concerned. You're going to care for her. You're going to love her. Sometimes people say, nah. He said, let me ask this. He said, what you think, Isha? He said, Isha, say how she feels and see what she say and get her input. And he go according to that. Because that's my counterpart. That's my side. That's my rib. And God said we should be one flesh. That's how it's supposed to be.
Man,
look, Elkanah looked at his wife because his wife was grieving bad.
Yeah.
His wife was grieving real bad, man. He was grieving. You know why she was grieving? Because her desire was to have a child for her husband. She was barren. So Elkanah, him being the man he was, a righteous and pious man before God, he realized the state of mind that his wife was in, Hannah. He said, aren't I better to thee than 10 sons? He said, come on, baby. He didn't want to see his wife all down and sad. A man don't want to see his wife like that. Man don't want to come home and see his wife sad and sulking and no. And the man and the woman in the book, it was vice versa. The wife didn't want to see her husband in that manner. That's why Jezebel went and said, hey, listen. He said, hey. She said, hey, listen. She said, why you being the king walking around like that? He said, what's up? He said, man, I wanted the vineyard of Naboth. He said, okay, don't worry about it, king. He said, don't you govern the nation? He said, I'll get you that vineyard. And she did what she had to do to get the vineyard. It was the procedure that she took was bad. It was evil. But I'm just showing you the mentality of the man and the woman in the book. She did it to please her husband. She just wanted him good. She just wanted to make sure he good. And that was the only thing that mattered to her. Tamshi.
But unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all that thou settest thine hand to do.
That the what?
That the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all that thou settest thine hand to do in the land whither thou goest to possess it.
You see that? If we do the things that is lawful and right by God, then he will bless my hands. And whatever I put forth my hands to do, he will accomplish my hands. I'm going to get it off. Once we please the Most High and please the Creator, everything is possible. Tamshi.
When thou shalt vow a vow unto the Lord thy God, thou shalt not slack to pay.
When thou shalt vow a vow to God, he said, thou shalt what?
Thou shalt not slack to pay it.
Thou shalt not be slack to pay it.
For the Lord thy God will surely require it of thee. And it would be
for the Lord thy God will surely require it of thee. Everything that we voice out of our mouth, God looks towards you to uphold these things. That's something that we as a whole need to be on point with. That's something that I need to be on point with. If I can't accomplish, don't mention it. If I can't do it, don't mention it. He said everybody are liars by nature. That's something that we all need to work with ourselves. You know how many times I done told lies? You know how many times I done said lies and then have to rectify it again? It don't make it right.
No.
Don't make it right. And we got to hate the things that God hates. You know what God said? God said, I hate a liar. He said, a liar will not tarry in my sight. In the Hebrew, it said, a liar will not grow firm. A liar will not grow firm. What do you mean by grow firm? You will not grow firm in the laws of God. You will not be strengthened in the laws of law and the laws of God. You will not be established in the laws of the Creator because you're a liar. These are things that we have to rule our spirit to refrain from doing. Why? Not because of me, because God hated it. Because God hated it. These are things that we have to acknowledge. I do the things, I have to channel and program myself to do the things that God loves and not to do the things that God hates. Not to do the things that God hates. It's a program, man. It's a program. It's a job. Tamshi.
But if thou shalt forbear to vow, it shall be no sin in thee. That which is going out of thy lips, thou shalt keep and perform.
That which is going out of thy lips, thou shalt keep and perform. Tamshi.
Even a free will offering.
Even a free will offering.
According as thou hast vowed unto the Lord thy God.
According as thou hast vowed to who?
To the Lord thy God.
To the Lord thy God. Tamshi.
Which thou hast promised with thy mouth. When thou comest unto thy neighbor's vineyard, then thou mayest eat grapes, eat grapes thy fill at thine own
When
pleasure.
thou hast comest to thy neighbor's vineyard. Because, you know, we didn't have beggars. Nobody had to beg in Israel. Because we were told that when a man is hungry, he can go in your vineyard and eat till he's filled. Just don't go in that man's vineyard with no doggy bag. Shopping. You know, going there and you roaming through the man field, filling up your sack, and you leave out of there with a sack, a garbage bag full. He said, no doggy bag, no bag, no bag. He said, you go in there, you eat till you're filled, and you can leave. Then leave. I can go back to that place every day. Whenever I get hungry, I can go there and eat.
Right.
Tom sheet.
23. That which is going out of thy lips, thou shalt keep and perform.
That which is gone out of thy lips, thou shalt keep and perform. Whatever is voiced out of your mouth, we got to keep that.
Right.
We got to keep that, because then and only then, that is the way of God. That is the way of God, man. And we learn the ways of God just by reading. Only by reading this book will you learn the ways of the Creator. Only by reading this book. Tom sheet.
Even a free will offering, according as I has vowed unto Elohim thy El, which thou hast promised with thy mouth. When thou comest into thy neighbor's vineyard, then thou mayest eat thy grapes. Thou mayest eat grapes thy fill at thine own pleasure, but thou shalt not put any in thy vessel. When thou hast come into thy neighbor's vineyard, read. Then mayest thou eat grapes thy fill at thine own pleasure. I can go there and eat as much as I want to eat. Mm-hmm. He said, but just don't come there with no bag. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, read. But thou shalt not put any in thy vessel. Don't put nothing in your vessel, Tom sheet. When thou comest into the standing corn of thy neighbor, then thou mayest pluck the ears with thine hand, but thou shalt not move a sickle unto thy neighbor's standing corn. Chapter 24. No, go to Psalms chapter 25. Psalms chapter 25. Yes. Go to Psalms chapter 25. Unto thee, O Elohim, do I lift up my soul. He said, what? Unto thee. Unto thee, Unto thee, O Elohim, do I lift up my soul. Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. Tom sheet. Oh my El, I trust in thee. Oh my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed. Let me not be ashamed. Let not my enemy. Now, what do you mean by ashamed? Ashamed is feeling of shame, right? Now, shame is a quality of a righteous man. Okay? Because only when a person has shame, he will have strong. See, shame is when you have strong regrets of the wrong that you did. You are ashamed of your actions that you have done, number one, against God, number two, against man. I have to feel some type of regrets according to what I did and what I said in order to have that. And that quality is only in certain people, because not everybody, people don't regret. Not everybody have regrets. Tom sheet. Let not my enemies triumph over me. He said, let not my enemies triumph over me. Yea, let none that wait. Let not my enemies rejoice over me. Don't cause my enemy to rejoice over me. Tom sheet. Yea, let none of them that wait on thee be ashamed. Yea, let none of them that wait on thee be ashamed. Let them be ashamed which transgress without cause. Let them be ashamed which transgress without cause. He said, Bogdim, requam, right? You know what that means? You know what I mean? He said, to transgress in vain. Bogdim. It also comes from the word bagad. It also means to trespass, to transgress, to be treacherous. To be treacherous against who? Against God. To transgress in vain. Because that's where to begin. That's why we sin. This is the reason why we sin against God, because of vanity, because we are filled with vain. We are vain. We are vain. We're vain. So in order to serve God and keep his commandments, I got to relinquish and get rid of two things: vanity and pride. Again, when you have pride, it brings about you brings about you having very high self-esteem. And because you have high self-esteem, you will put yourself before God's law. You will put your feelings and your emotions before God. If you relinquish in vain of having vanity, vain is being on oneself. So because I'm all on myself, I'm able to sin against God and thrust God to the side.
Right.
Tamshi.
Show me thy ways.
She said, show me thy ways. When God shows you his ways, he directs and guides towards the right and correct way, not allowing you to follow your own wanting ways. That's when God guides you. I want to move in a manner, but God has guided me to a different path, and I will not turn out of this path because I have put God first. We understand that, man? Because you put God first, you will not turn out of this path that God has shown you.
Right.
We chose our own path. So not every path that we chose is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Not every path that we chose is right.
Yeah.
There's some paths and some roads that we chose to take in life is not right by God.
Yeah, right.
It appears to be right,
Mm-hmm.
but it ain't right. Tamshi.
Show me thy ways, O Elohim. Teach me thy paths.
Show me thy ways, O Lord, and teach me thy path.
Lead me in thy truth. And teach me.
Lead me in thy truth.
And teach me.
Mm-hmm.
For thou art the God of my salvation.
For thou art the God of my salvation. Tamshi.
On thee do I wait all the day.
On thee do I wait all day.
Remember, O Elohim, thy tender mercies and thy loving kindnesses, for they have been ever of old.
Ever of old.
Remember not the iniquities of my youth.
Remember not the sins of my youth.
Nor my transgressions.
According
to thy mercy, remember thou me for thy goodness' sake.
For thy goodness' sake, O Lord. See, in Isaiah 55, verse 7, it says, let the wicked forsake his ways, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. Okay? Let the wicked forsake his own ways, and the unrighteous man his own thoughts. So I have to forsake, in order to get to God, I have to forsake my own ways. I have to forsake my own thoughts. I have to acknowledge that the ways that I had chosen to walk in is not right by God. These are my ways, but God has separate ways. God has ordained us to walk in ways that we have not accepted. God has taught us and shown us a way of thinking. When you read the book teaches us how we should think. And how we shouldn't think. Because either go against what God said, or it's for, or you're not against what God said. Both things brings about certain thoughts, brings about a thinking pattern.
Okay.
All right? He said the only way to figure this out is by reading this book. Then and only then you will learn the ways of the Creator and the way he thinks. Tamshi.
Good and upright is Elohim.
Say good and upright is the Most High. Good and upright is the Most High. What is good? Pleasant. Agreeable with God. Okay? Tamshi. Good and upright is the Most High.
Therefore will he teach transgressors in the way.
Therefore will he teach transgressors in the way. Tom C.
The meek will he guide in judgment,
The meek will he guide, will he lead into judgment,
and the meek will he teach his way.
and the meek will he teach his way. Tom C.
All the paths of Elohim are mercy and truth unto such as keep his covenant and his testimonies.
All the paths of the Most High is mercy and truth. All the paths and the ways of the Creator is mercy and truth. Everything that we read about is in that manner. Is in that path. All the laws that we read about is in that manner, in that path, in that way. Mercy and truth. Tom C.
For thy name's sake, O Elohim, pardon my iniquity.
For thy name's sake, O Lord, pardon my sins.
For it is great.
He said, for it is great. Our iniquities is great. And you have these men talking about their iniquities when you can count the things that they did on one hand. These men was perfect and upright with God, man. Come, where read?
What man is he that feareth Elohim?
What man is he that feareth God?
Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose.
See, God don't teach everybody. God don't show everybody. Who are you? Read that again.
What man is he?
What man is he that feareth the Lord? God is only going to show a person his ways and his path if he has the fear of God in him. He has to show God that he has that fear in him to do and the determination to do his laws. Now God will come to you and show you his ways and teach you his paths. Because God don't show and teach people who don't have that determination and the will to serve him. So in order to receive the benefits of these laws, I gotta put myself out first. I gotta put my butt out there first. I gotta step out into the fires. Time sheet.
His soul shall dwell at ease, and the sea shall inherit
His
the earth.
soul. His soul. He said, what man is he that feareth the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose. He said, his soul shall dwell at ease, and the sea shall inherit the earth. Verse 14. Psalms 25, verse 14. Tom C.
The secret of Elohim is with them that fear him.
The secrets of God is only with them that fear God. That's why certain things people don't understand. That's why certain things people read and can't understand. And then when you explain it to them, they still don't understand. Because God has blinded you and covered your face towards certain things. Because you haven't shown no effort. You haven't put out no effort to serve the Creator. So God gonna blind you. Of course He gonna blind you. Tom C.
And he will show them his covenant.
He said, what man is he that feareth the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose. His soul shall dwell at ease, and the sea shall inherit the earth. The secrets of the Lord is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant. He will show them what is a covenant, his agreement. Tom C.
Mine eyes ever toward thee, Elohim, for he shall pluck my feet out of the net. Turn thee unto me and have mercy upon me, for I am desolate and afflicted.
Desolate and afflicted, Tom C.
The troubles of my heart are enlarged. Oh, bring thou me out of my distresses. Look upon my affliction and my pain. Forgive all my iniquities. Consider mine enemies, for they are many. For they hate me with a cruel hatred.
With a cruel hatred, Tom C.
Oh, keep my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed, for I put my trust in thee. Let integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait on thee.
Let integrity and what?
Let integrity and uprightness preserve me.
Let integrity, the integrity that a man have in him, and the uprightness that a man hath in him will hold him up. Those are the two things that will keep that man in the way of serving God. The amount of integrity and uprightness would keep uprightness that a man have in him. Those things will keep that person in the way of serving the Creator. And this is why Job was not a man that was wishy-washy, was able to turn to the right or to the left, because he had a certain amount of integrity and uprightness to hold itself grounded in God. You couldn't break him. Couldn't break him. That's what held him. Tom Sheet.
Consider my enemies for their
Maybe
many.
that.
19.
Okay. He said, redeem Israel, O God, out of all troubles. We're going to go into Psalms 37. Psalms 37.
Psalm 37.
Tom Sheet.
Fret not thyself because of evildoers.
Fret not thyself because of evildoers. You know what fret means? The word for fret is chara, chet resh he. It means to get angry, to be upset. He said, why am I getting upset and fretting myself over people who don't do these laws? Who don't consider God? Why? Kamshi.
For they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as a green herb. Trust in Elohim and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thyself also in Elohim, and he shall
delight thyself in God, and what?
And he shall give thee the desires of thine heart.
And he shall give you the petition and the request of your mind, of your own heart. The thoughts that I don't formulate it out of my mind, God will give it to you. Tamshi, read.
Commit thy way unto Elohim.
Commit your way unto God.
Trust also
in him.
And he shall bring it to pass.
He's going to bring it to pass. Tamshi.
And he shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. Rest in Elohim, and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in the way. Because of the
Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way. He's prospering not in God's way, but he's prospering in his own ways. Which means there are people that's going to prosper in life, and they're going to succeed in life, but not living in the ways of God. They're going to be succeeding in life doing their own thing. Don't look at that and say, well, that person must be doing the right thing. Don't look at that and say that. Tamshi.
Because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger and forsake wrath.
Cease from anger and forsake wrath.
Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. For evildoers shall be cut off.
For the evildoers shall be cut off. Go to Psalms 17.
Psalms chapter 17.
I want to go, before you go into Psalm 17, it says, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. The word for ordered is konanu. Konanu is what? Means to establish. The steps of a good man are established by God. It's directed by God. The steps of a good man is ordered by the Most High, and he delighted in his way. All right, time sheet.
Psalm chapter 17. Hear the right, O Elohim, attend unto my cry. Give ear unto my prayer, that goeth not out of faint lips.
Out of faint lips. Now, go ahead, read.
Let my sentence come forth from thy presence. Let thine eyes behold.
He said, hear the right. Hear the right. Shema El Shaddai Zedek. Zedek means what? The righteous, the just. The righteous, the just. What is just? Just means conforming. Just means to agree to a standard of correctness. To agree to a standard that God has set. That's when you're just. I have to channel and program myself to agree with everything in this book. Agree with everything that you read. He said, then God will look at you as a just man.
Make yourself correctable towards him.
All right? Conforming to facts or truth. The only thing that's held to be factual, the only thing that's held to be truth is this. What we read. That's it. Come see.
Thou hast proved mine heart.
He said, hear the right, attend to my God, cry, give ear unto my prayer, that goeth not out of faint lips. Faint lips is deceitful lips. Faint lips is crafty lips, false lips, lying lips. So if I'm a liar and I have craftiness and deceit in me, God will not hearken to my prayer. God don't hearken to everybody's prayer. God don't hearken to everybody's prayer. So I really don't care who prays for me and who don't pray for me. In order for you to pray for me, you have to be held in a certain standard with God.
Right.
Abraham was able to pray for the Sodomites because he held a certain standard with God. Moses was able to pray for the people and hold and pacify the anger of God because he was held in a certain standard with God. Tom, see?
Thou hast proved mine heart.
Thou hast proved mine heart.
Thou hast visited me in the night.
He said, let my sentence come forth from thy presence. Let mine eyes behold the things that are equal. You know what is equal? Shadim. Let my eyes behold the things, right things, straight, honest things. Now, straight and evenness. Straight things is showing honesty and fairness. One of the definitions was evenness, evenness. You know what that means? Being without indentation. Okay? Being without indentation effect. It's a dent. Now, it's dent. To have a weakness. Right? I can weaken you. Yeah, I can weaken you. That's why God said to destroy them 7 nations. Destroy them seven nations. Okay?
They're going to corrupt you.
Because they're going to corrupt you. They're going to corrupt you. And they're going to cause you to go in a certain way that is not ordained by God. That's the weakness. So God told us, listen, stay away from the nations. Wipe this out, wipe them out, wipe them out, wipe them out. You can leave them away because they are far off. They're not near. But wipe these out, wipe them out. Tom, see?
Thou hast proved mine heart.
Thou hast proved mine heart.
Thou hast visited me in the night.
You know what prove means? To test, to examine, to search, to try. God has proved David's heart. And in order to prove a man's heart, you have to put him through certain situations in life to see what he chooses. You got to put her through certain situations in life to see what she chooses in order to prove that person. In order to say, well, I know he or she won't do this because they've been proved already. They've been proved already. And these people that you have proved already, They don't jump back and forth. They've been proved already. That's what God did with his people. That's what God did with a nation. He had to prove the nation before he could accept them. He had to prove the nation before he can accept them and take them to himself. I can't accept you right away. That comes in time. It comes in time when I can say, I accept you. Because I have dealt with you with a certain amount of time to know what you are about. How you stand with God. Tamshi.
Thou hast tried me and shalt find nothing. I am purpose that my mouth shall not transgress.
Thou hast tried me and you ain't gonna find nothing. You see what David said? He said, you have tried me, you have proved me, you have examined and searched out my heart, and you're not going to find no sin, nothing contrary within me. Because that wasn't David's makeup. That wasn't his makeup, man. Tamshi.
Concerning the works of men by the word of thy lips, I have kept thee from the paths of the destroyer.
Concerning the works of men by the words of thy lips, I have kept me from the path of the destroyer. Tamshi.
Hold up my goings in thy path.
Hold up my goings in thy path. Who he asking that with? He asking God. Keep me moving. Keep me going in this path that is acceptable by thee, O Lord. Don't cause me to sway off or to go aside from the way that you has ordained, O Lord, O Most High. Don't cause me to go off. Don't cause me to slide away. Tamshi.
That my footsteps slip not.
That my footsteps slip not. It also means to totter, right? You know what that means? To become unstable. To become unstable. Unstable means you're not stable. You're not grounded. Every once in a while you slip off and then you come back. You go off. And then you come back. You're not stable. To slip means to fall into error. To fall into fault. To fall into sin with God. Tamshi.
I called upon thee, for thou wilt hear me. O Elohim, incline thine ear unto me and hear my speech. Show thy marvelous loving kindness, O thou that savest by thy right hand, them which put their trust in thee from those that rise up against them. Keep me as the apple of thine eye.
Keep me as the apple of thy eye.
Hide me under the shadow of thy wings.
Hide me under the shadow of thy wings.
From the wicked man, from the wicked that oppress
From the wicked that oppress me. So now, this is something that a wicked person does. When I looked up the word for oppressed, it says shaduni. Shaduni doesn't mean oppression. Shaduni means to deal violently with. Shaduni means to assault. Assault means a violent, physical, or verbal attack. All that falls under oppression. What is a verbal attack? What Nabal did. What Nabal did to the men that David sent out to bring back food. Tamshi.
From the wicked that oppress me, from my deadly enemies who compass me about. They are enclosed in their own fat.
They are enclosed in their own fat, Tamshi.
With their mouth they speak proudly.
They
have now compassed us in our steps. They have set their eyes bowing down to the earth. Like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, and as it were a young lion lurking in secret places. Arise, O Elohim, disappoint them, cast them down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword.
He said, oh Lord, disappoint them. Disappoint them, prevent them, hold them back, keep them back. You know what that is, man? When God prevents you, when God holds you back, that person that God has prevented is not going to come to the sight of his clearness. You're not going to turn towards God, man. He's going to lead you astray. He's going to cause you to go off. Tamshi, this is not going to be a desire, Tamshi.
from men which are thy hand, O Elohim, from men of the world which have their portion in this life, and whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure. They are full of children, and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness.
Now, when it says to slip, right, it means to fall into error or fault, and it also means to vacillate or vacillate, right? Vacillating means to sway, to waver in the mind, to waver at your will, to waver in your feelings, to hesitate in choice of opinion or course. And that is when that is the definition of the sift. In Amos 9, he said, I will sift the house of Israel from among who? My people. Okay, go ahead, read.
That's the end of that chapter.
That's the end of that chapter. Okay, let's go to Isaiah 66. Isaiah chapter 66.
Thus said Elohim, the heaven is my throne.
Thus said the Lord. He said, heavens is my throne. That's my habitation. That's where God is at. You want to know where God is at? He said he's in the heavens. That's where he at. Way up there. Way far above space. He's above, his habitation is above the waters. See, in the beginning, the earth was just waters. It was just waters. And God separated the waters, put a requia. A requia is a space between the waters from above, from the waters beneath. He put God's throne, and his habitation is above those waters. Read.
The heaven is my throne, and
the heaven is my throne,
and the earth is my footstool.
The earth is my footstool.
Where is the house that you built into me? And where is the place of my rest?
He said, where's the house that you built? Solomon built a house for God. And Solomon realized and acknowledged that your glory is infinite and this house cannot hold you. But it was just the mentality and the thought to say, well, listen, God don't have a house. We all have a house to go to, but God don't have a house where he can go to and dwell at, to place his name there, which represents God. You see the mentality of these people, and this is why most of these people was upheld and exalted, because of the way they thought. No one had the mentality or was ever thought about to build a house for God, because God cannot be contained. But it was just the thought. It was the thought that God turned towards and said, man, this dude decided to build me a house, and I'm not even living in it. I already had my house. My throne and my glory is above the heavens. He said, this guy here and built me a house, man. Tom Sheehan. It said, thus said the Lord, the heavens is my throne. You know what the word says for throne, man? It says kis-e, kaf, samek, aleph, yours. He said it means a chair, a seat, or a seat of honor. That's God's throne. That's the throne. Tom, see?
And the earth is my footstool.
He said the earth is my footstool.
Where is the house that you build unto me?
He said, where is the house that you build unto me? It came upon a time when the house that David built, that Solomon built, it was deserted. It was abandoned. It was forsaken. They left it and abandoned the house of God. That's right, Tom Shee.
And where is the place of my rest? For all those things had my hand made,
Mm-hmm.
and all those things have been, said Elohim. But to this man will I look.
But to this man will I look.
Even to him.
Aleph, Beit, Tet. Right? Yod, Tet. But to this man will I look. You know what it means when it says to this man will I look? It means to examine. When you are being put through an examination of God, or when you're being examined by God, he tests the conditions of you. He tests your conditions. What is the conditions, or what is your conditions? Your condition means your agreement, your covenant. You set, I set, we set our own conditions dealing with God, which means we went into agreement and a covenant with God. So now God gonna test you according to what you said out your mouth, according to your agreement and your covenant that you done said out of your mouth towards God. And this gonna come hard and hard and hard and hard. Your conditions is your stipulations. You bind it yourself by. So all those vows and things that I done voiced out my mouth.
I would never. Stuff like that.
God gonna test you according to that, to see if you're gonna hold what you said. This is why certain things I don't voice. Certain things I don't voice. If I'm not able to keep it. Certain things I don't voice. You know what? I just do it. If I feel the need to do it, I do it. You know why? You know why I don't voice it? I'm sinful. And I sin against God. And my sin is greater than my righteousness. My iniquities that I have committed with God is greater than my righteousness. So now we have a point in time in life where we're gun-holed, and then certain times the gun-holdness and the steadfastness wear off. That's why God says, strengthen yourselves in God. I gotta strengthen. And what causes this? Presumptuous iniquity. When we sin against God, knowing that it's a sin. Knowing that it's a sin to do this, I still do it. I can't be accepted of God sinning presumptuously. We cannot be accepted of God sinning presumptuously. These are things that we have to put in place. You gotta put those things in place. You know, sometimes you wait a while to see if a person will make the first move. Then after a while, the person don't make the move, you gotta step in. You gotta step in. Because you're waiting to see that determination or that will to serve the Creator, when that person is going to make that move, make that change towards certain things that is against God. Because I will never know where you stand until I see actions. God said these things will only be accepted if it's done of your own free will. Because you have accepted what God said, and because you have accepted what God said, you have to start putting forth actions to compare with what God said. Tom Sheet.
But to this man will I look, even to him that is
poor. But to this man will I look.
Even to him that is poor.
Even to him that is poor. Ayin nun yod. It means humble. You know what humble is? Humble is when you submit yourself to God. And when you submit yourself to God, everything that we read in the book, I will order my life according to it. Because number one, I have submitted myself to the Creator. So in order for any of this to be put into any type of effect, but in order for any of this to be done, I had to submit myself to God first. And because I have submitted myself to God first, I will honor everything that I read out this book. But you have to submit yourself first. What's the next one?
That is poor of a contrite spirit.
Poor, contrite spirit. A contrite spirit, nakeh, ruach. Ruach is the spirit. Nakeh is a smitten or afflicted spirit. Tamshi.
And he trembleth at my word.
And he trembles at my word. Tremble at my word means you're afraid. When a man trembles at the word of God, you are afraid to do something that is against what God says. You're afraid to commit this unlawful act. That's the only thing that put a stop to iniquity, to you transgressing and breaking God's law. You have to be afraid. Read.
He that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man.
He that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man. Why? Why I say he that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man? You know why? Because number one, at this point in time, there was no priest to do no sacrifice. The house of God was abandoned at this time. What are you sacrificing? There was no sacrifice accepted. So when I go and kill an ox, talking about I want to see why we kill oxes and all these animals for sacrifices, because there is no redemption of sin until blood be shed. There is no redemption of sin until blood be shed, because there was an order of these sacrifices. Before I send up the peace offering, I have to send up a sin offering first. And then after I send up the sin offering, see, the sin offering is to show God that I'm sorry. I'm sorrowful for what I did, oh Lord. And there was a certain concoction that was put together when it's concerning a sin offering. There was a certain concoction that was put together that was concerning a peace offering. And the priest knew it. The high priest knew it. So he sent up the sin offering. After the sin offering, guess what came after that? The peace offering. To make peace with God. So there is an order in the standard and the curriculum that is accepted. In order to make peace, I have to realize that I'm wrong. I have to acknowledge my faults. I was wrong. I can't be stubborn. You got to acknowledge that. And when a person acknowledges his fault, he's going to voice it. After he voices it, and after you rectify and voice your wrong, then you make peace. You got to feel bad about it. That's the contrite heart. Tamshi. He said, he that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man.
He that sacrificeth a lamb as if he cut off a dog's neck. He that offereth an oblation.
He that offereth a minka. A minka is an offering, Tamshi.
As if he offered swine's blood.
He that offereth an offering is like he sent up swine's blood, Tamshi.
He that burneth incense.
He that burneth incense. And the word for incense is lebona. Lebona means frankincense. He that burneth frankincense,
as if he blessed an idol.
Is as if he blessed an idol. Okay? And the incense were only burnt in the temple. Incense were only burnt during sacrifices. Now, he said, he that burneth incense, he that burneth frankincense is as if he blessed an idol. The word for idol is awang. Barek awang. Barek awang means to bless injustice, to bless iniquity. Now, what is it? What does it mean when you bless something? You talk good about it. To speak gratefully of. You uplift it. You praise it. You glorify it. So now we have to be very circumspect on what we speak good about. You know how many people speak good about things that is against God? You know how many people speak good about certain things that is against the Creator? God looked at you and said, man, you have blessed things. You have spoken good about things that is not good with God, that is unjust with the Creator. So we got to watch our mouth and watch the things that we uplift and accept. Tom, see?
He that burneth incense as if he blesses an idol.
Uh-huh.
Yea, they have chosen their own way.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Man and woman. I didn't have to say women in this book. You know why that don't stand in the book? Because the woman in the book followed their husband. They didn't choose their own way. They followed their husband. Very few women in the book didn't follow their husband. She did it like Jezebel. Jezebel did her own thing. Went out, did her own thing. But majority of the women in the book followed their husbands. We have chosen our own way. Now today, men and women has chosen their own way that they see fit, that they think is right and good with God, when it's not. That's in your own eyes. You are only right according to your own eyes, according to your own thoughts. But according to what God said, you're not right and you don't accept. So you can't be accepted. God ain't not going to accept us this way. Tom, see.
And their soul delighteth in their abominations.
Their soul delight in their abominations. That's why certain questions comes up. Is something wrong with me acknowledging this? Is something wrong with me doing this? Is something wrong with me doing this?
That's where the crazy questions come from.
Because what? Why? He said, I will choose their delusions. He said, they have chosen their own ways. You have not chose to follow the ways of God. When you had chosen to follow the ways of God, certain questions and certain things not going to come up. It will relinquish certain things and certain thoughts from your mind, from your mouth. It will cancel it. Because I have not chosen my own ways. I have chosen the ways of God. And when a man or a woman has chosen the ways of God, certain things won't be voiced. Certain thoughts won't be formulated in the mind. Certain ideas won't be formulated in the mind, because you will only accept the way that God has prescribed for man to follow. You will only accept the things that you read in this book. Tom, see.
I will also choose their delusion.
Now, because of that, because I have chosen my own ways, God is going to choose your delusions. God is going to choose what he decides to put you through. Go ahead, read.
And will bring their fears upon them.
The things that you are afraid of the most. So he'll bring it upon you. He's going to bring it upon you. Tamshi.
Because when I called.
When is the calling of God? When is the calling of God? When you hear the law. When you hear, listen, JC ain't God. When you hear this ain't God, that ain't God, this is the God. This is his laws. This is the commandments. That's the calling.
Prophets.
Take heed to the calling.
Prophets too.
And you have a certain amount of time to take heed to this calling. Because God deals with everything at a schedule. God deals with everything at a time limit. You seen that saucer? You have 2 bottles and there's a small little pin in the middle. Sand is going through that. Turn before God before this empties. Each and everybody time schedule is different. Everybody got different time schedules. When your time run out, that's when God hedge up the way and block you. And then he start feeding you your own lustful thoughts, your own lustful desire. Whatever you done have in you, he gonna feed it to you and increase it. Amplify it. Time sheet.
Because when I called, none did answer.
When I called, you didn't answer.
When I spake, they did not hear.
When I spake, you didn't hear.
But they did evil before mine eyes.
But you did evil before mine eyes.
And chose that in which I delighted not.
Chose that in what?
In which I delighted not.
In which I delighted not. We done chose things that God did not delight in. We done chose things that God did not accept. We done chose things that God hate. Why? Because we have not programmed ourselves to hate the things that God hates. We have not programmed ourselves to love the things that God loves. So we lean towards our own wanton ways and our own wanton desires. Tamshi. Hear the word of the Lord, ye that tremble at his word, because only a certain type of people is going to hear God. The ones that tremble at his word. Not everybody. There's a certain type of person that's going to hearken to God. There's a certain type of person that's going to hearken. Tamshi.
Hear the word, ye that tremble at his word.
Uh-huh.
Your brethren that hated you, that cast you out for my name's sake.
Uh-huh.
Let Elohim be glorified.
Let the Most High be glorified. Read.
But he shall appear to your joy.
Uh-huh.
And they shall be ashamed.
Uh-huh.
A voice of noise from the city. A voice from the temple. A voice of Elohim that rendereth recompense to his enemies.
Uh-huh.
Before she travailed, she brought forth.
Uh-huh.
Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child.
Uh-huh.
Who had heard such a thing? Who had seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day?
Was the earth made to bring forth in one day? No. God did everything in time and space. Which means God don't rush and do nothing. He does everything at a set time. At a set time. God has caused the grass and the herb yielding seed to grow before he created the sun. So that you can't say photosynthesis had anything to do with it. Because in order to have photosynthesis and a greenhouse effect, you need the sun. God didn't create the sun. He created the herb. Every herb bearing seed, yielded seed in itself, and caused things to grow, the grass to grow before he created the sun.
No heat, no light.
No heat, no light.
All that stuff that it needs now.
So
That's correct.
like I heard one of my brothers say, we got to stop mixing science with the laws of God, with this book. Okay?
That's right.
Go ahead, Tamshi.
Or shall a nation be born at once?
Shall a nation be born at once?
No.
No. The nation was born through generations, through time. And the seed of Jacob, the beginning of a nation being built was when Abraham had Isaac. Isaac had Jacob, and his name was changed to Israel. Then you had the 12 tribes, and millions of people came out of each tribe.
Each tribe. That's right.
Each tribe came millions.
400 years.
And that was the nation of a people that was established by God.
400 years.
430 years they in Egypt. 430 years they in Egypt, multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. Millions of people, man. Tamshi.
For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. Shall I bring to the birth and not cause to bring forth, said Elohim? Shall I cause to bring forth and shut the womb, said Elohim?
Okay, cut that. Go to Nehemiah. Go to Nehemiah. No, before you go to Nehemiah, let's go to Hosea. Go to Hosea chapter 4.
Hosea chapter 4.
Hosea chapter 4.
Hear the word of Elohim, ye children of Israel. For Elohim hath a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth, no mercy, nor knowledge in the land of Elohim in the land.
He said, hear the word of the Lord, ye children of Israel. For the Lord had a controversy with what? With the inhabitants of the land. He wasn't specific. That's the world, man.
That's everybody. That's the land.
That's everybody that's dwelling and living on earth. God got a problem with people because the people at this point in time has turned their backs against God. When we going to realize this, man? When are we going to acknowledge this and realize this, that there was a certain way that God has ordained for us to live? There is only one God. And because there's only one God, there was one prescribed way to live your life. That's it. There's one prescribed way that God has ordained for a person to live their life. And that's on everything that I love. The only thing and the only way that God has prescribed for man and woman to live, you read about it in the Old Testament. Do not cause yourself to be swayed and persuaded to move off from this. Tamshi.
Hosea chapter 4. Hear the word of Elohim, O children of Israel. For Elohim had the controversy with the inhabitants of the land. Because there is no truth.
There's no truth.
No mercy.
There's no mercy.
No knowledge of Elohim.
No knowledge of God in the land. And that's the people. Look around today. These people has no mercy. No mercy. They do things, atrocious things to people and laugh about it. They're heartless. They're heartless. They're cold. They have no mercy. They have no truth in them. That's the inhabitants of the world today. That's how the world is. Tamshi.
By swearing and lying.
By swearing.
And lying.
And lying.
And killing.
And murdering.
And stealing.
And stealing.
And committing adultery.
And committing adultery.
They break out.
They break out.
And blood touches blood.
You know what blood touches blood is? That's family. Kinsmen. Brothers against brother. Sister against sister. He said blood touches blood.
Nobody wins.
Nobody wins. Nobody wins. But in order to consider this, you got to consider God. In order to consider this, you got to have a certain amount of righteousness in you. You got to have a certain amount of determination to serve God, to serve the Creator. You got to have a certain type of heart. God looked at us at a point in time and said, man, we heartless, man. We got a cold and stone heart. And that person with that cold and stony heart don't consider. Why do you think God gave us these laws? To consider each other. Know when to say it, when not to say it. Know when to voice it and not to voice it. Because there's a time for everything. There's a certain time for everything. Some things you just don't voice. Some things you just don't say. But guess what? The wicked has no clamps. The wicked has no limit. You know what a clamp is? Know when to shut your mouth and when to unclamp it, when to open it. Unrestrained. That's the wicked. That's when you can determine and say, well, when a person says certain things, you're able to look at them and say, yes, and you are moving in the way that is not ordained by God, just by what you just said. Because if you had any type of righteousness or good in you, you wouldn't have voiced that. You wouldn't have said that. Certain things you don't say. You understand, man? Certain things you don't say. Certain things you don't voice. Certain things you just hold. You hold it and never let it out until the grave calls you. That's righteousness and uprightness with God. You know, I have certain things that people done told me that I would never voice and tell them to their face. And I ain't never spread it. No matter how angry, no matter what the person said to me. Because me personally, you know what caused me to move in this manner? Me taking heed to these laws, me doing and accomplishing certain laws, so I'm able with certain things, I'm able to push aside my emotions to where a person will violate, but I'm able to hold back. I'm able to hold back. That don't make you soft. All that do is better you in the eyes of God. Read.
Therefore shall the land mourn, and everyone that dwelleth.
Therefore shall the land mourn. Because of what you did, Israel. Because of what we did, the land, we have caused the man. We are the reason why Jerusalem is mourning. When you read the book, he said Jerusalem was looking at his children, looking at the nation. He said, I turned to my children and said, turn. He said, turn, O Israel, before the wrath of the Lord. Turn. Well, every time I read that, man, put goose pimples, I feel it. Feel chills, and I feel it in my soul, man. Sound like a parent talking to their children. He said, listen, man, pleading with their children, telling them to turn. Behave yourself before God. Listen. Read.
Therefore shall the land mourn.
Therefore shall the land mourn.
And everyone that dwelleth therein
and
shall languish.
One that dwelleth therein shall what?
Languish.
Shall languish. What verse is that?
Verse 3.
Verse 3. Right?
With the beasts of the field.
Uh-huh.
And with the fowl.
Now, languish. Everyone, what? Let me see. It said, everyone that dwelleth therein shall languish. The word for languish, you know what languish means? Slack, drooping, flagging, sluggish in character, lacking force, moral or mental strength. To do these laws, you need mental and moral strength to do this. You need a strong mind to do this. You need strong morals to do this. If you don't have a strong mental capacity, you're going to waver and you're going to slide off. You're going to turn away. All right? Flagging means dwindling. Dwindling means to become steadily less. Steadily less means easily moved and upset, not constant in principal purpose. The principal purpose, you're easily moved. You're easily persuaded to push away from God.
It's real easy to get.
It's real easy to get your attention. Tom, see?
With the beasts of the field and with the fowls of heaven, yea, the fishes of the sea also shall be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Yet let no man strive, nor
Yet
reprove another.
Let no man strive.
Nor reprove another.
Nor reprove another.
For thy people are as they that strive with the
He
priest.
said, what are you going to reprove or chastise or say to this person when this guy is the same guy that argues with the priest?
Right.
This guy go back and forth with the priest. And you think he's going to hearken to you?
Mm-hmm.
So certain people, you know what that means? I got to leave them to their self. Once you chastise them and shown them, the priest butt came in, judges and elders, it's time to leave that dude alone and let him realize it for his own self. But by the time he realizes it, it's going to be too late. Too late. It was a brother named AZ, man. And he laid up on that bed, went into a coma. And when he woke out, he saw my elbow. He said, yo, Chief, he was crying. Because he went deep. In order to see these things in a coma, you got to go deep, near death.
Yeah.
He went into a coma. He said, they ugly, Chief. He said, they ugly. He said, they was coming for me. They was chasing me. And they grabbed my leg. He said, Chief, I can't move it. I could only move this leg, but this leg I can't move. Which means they got it in the spirit. They done snatched this off in the spirit. You know his next thing is he said, that's why I said when you realize certain things, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
No, when you realize certain things and it's too late with God. To where God said, well, listen, that's it. I already left the opening for repentance. Sometimes the time for repentance is short for you.
Yeah.
You know what he said? He said, Chief, if God get me out of this, he said, I'm going to do his laws.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to come to teachings.
Yeah.
You know what my Abba told him? He said, it's too late, man. Sorry to tell you, it's too late.
What's going on?
It's too late. He said he heard them calling his name.
Mm-hmm.
When he went down and God took him, when he went into that coma and went so deep, he said it was calling their name, calling his name. That's where you're going. But for some reason or somehow, people end up to realize the truth on their deathbed. Then it's too late. It's too late.
He ain't break their spirit while he was alive.
While you are alive, we have to break our spirit to serve God. While we are alive, we have to break our spirit to do these laws. We are alive, we got to break our spirit to conform and agree with the facts that we read about in this book. Because then and only then it will bring about certain actions in certain ways. Now my ways has become comparable to the Creator's ways because I had accepted God's ways. And when I accepted God's ways, I will apply God's ways to myself. To myself. There's laws in here that teaches us and tells us that we have no business shaving and balding our heads.
That's right.
We have no business balding our heads. We have no business shaving. What? The people shave, and I can't hate you for what you're doing because God said what? You choose. Adam and Eve had a choice. He gave them a command. He said, don't eat from every tree in the garden that mayest freely eat. But the tree that's in the midst of the garden, he said, thou shalt not eat from it. He said, don't eat from it. And the day that you eat from it, thou shalt surely die. Gave them a command, and he left them. You know why God gave man a choice? Because if he don't give you a choice, then he's not going to see what you choose. On your own, God is only going to accept you of a willing heart. I have to see what you choose first. Now, when I see what you choose, now I can accept you to myself. You're worthy. Not everybody is worthy to do these laws. Not everybody is worthy to keep these commandments. I have to make myself worthy by God, by honoring and conforming to the things that I read in the book. Time sheet.
4. Yet let no man strive, nor reprove another.
I'm in Hosea chapter 4, verse what?
4.
Verse 4. He said, yet let no man strive, nor reprove another, for thy people are as they that strive with the priests. These people argue with the priests.
Well, the priest said go.
Yeah, definitely.
And if they argue with the priest, you think they're going to listen to what I said?
Yeah.
No. Time sheet.
Therefore shalt thou fall in the day.
You're going to fall in the day.
And the prophet also shall.
And the prophet also shall fall with thee. Where?
In
the night. Time sheet.
And I will destroy thy mother.
And I will destroy thy mother. You know who was thy mother? The mother was Jerusalem. The land suffered because of what we did. Because of what the nation of Israel did. We chose a way that was not accepted of God. So everything else put everything out of whack. Everything went out of whack. Because we didn't chose the way that God has chosen for us to walk. Go ahead, read.
My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
My people are destroyed. My people are cut off. Because they are without knowledge. They don't know the way. And guess what? And guess why they don't know the way? Because God didn't show them the way. Because it takes a certain mentality. It takes a certain manner or custom or a determination for God to show you certain things. Show you and open your eyes to certain things that we read about. Tamshi.
Because thou hast rejected knowledge.
He said, because you have rejected knowledge,
I will also reject you.
I'm going to reject you. Huh? You hear that, man? So what that mean? Because you have rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. What is knowledge? Knowledge is that law, the know-how to accomplish these laws. And when you reject that, God rejects you. So don't stop telling the people and preaching lies to the people about God love us. No, God don't love all of us because some of us has rejected God. It's the hard truth. But people is afraid to teach the hard truth because some people don't want to accept it. And I want to please the people. I want to please the people instead of pleasing God. But the truth is that there are people, the majority of the people today is rejected by God and pushed away by God because you have rejected the laws and the commandments of God. So if you love God, you will keep his commandments. That goes hand in hand. I read that in Exodus 20. He said, love me and keep my commandments. Love is an action. Love is a word shown. You show your love for me by actions, by doing things. And the only one way you can show God that you love God is by keeping his laws, commandments, and statutes. That's it. Time sheet.
I will also reject thee.
He said, I will also reject thee.
That thou shalt be no priest to me.
That thou shalt be no priest to me.
Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God.
Seeing that you have forgotten my laws,
I will also
forget who?
My children.
I will also forget thy children. Oh my God. This is why my seed is going through what they're going through, because I have rejected God. So why do we think that if I reject God, he's going to reject my seed? That has to go back into Exodus 20 when it said, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the sons. It said upon the children, but in the Hebrew it says banim. And I will visit the sins upon the sons. But the only way to put a stop to that, the son has to walk uprightly with God. He has to repair that breach. So now, because God has forgotten me, because I forgot God, he's going to forget my son. He's going to forget my seed. You want God to do that to your kid? Do we really want God to do that to your kid? I don't want God to do that to my son. I don't want God to do that to my daughter, because I love my kids. And if I love my kids, I will walk uprightly with God so that my kids can get a certain treatment and live off of my righteousness, because we're dealing with a God that don't change. The Most High did not split the kingdom in half until the death of Solomon. Why? Because David walked in a certain manner before God that was accepted. He said, I will not split the kingdom in your days for the sake of your father, for the sake of David. He said, but when you die, when you go, he said, the kingdom is going to be split. And it stayed split. Stayed split. 10 tribes. When the 10 tribes went into captivity in Assyria, guess what? Learn the history. They never left. They stayed in Assyria. And they kept going. The other tribes that did not go into Assyria, those was the ones that migrated into Africa. They migrated into Africa, took on Hamitic customs, and they stayed there for hundreds and thousands of years. And then, after a certain amount of time, when we did not consider our ways with God, now he caused the northern countries to pull up on Africa and snatch us out of there and put us where? On ships.
Yeah, that's the slave trade.
Slave trade.
Yeah, we have the slave trade.
But remember, some of the tribes stayed in Assyria. It's a sad thing.
10 tribes.
It's a sad thing with our history and what happened to us in our history, man. It's a very sad thing. And this is why when you read the book, Jerusalem cried out. He said, he said, walk before the Lord. He said, come on, man, turn. Jerusalem pleading. She said, turn before the evil days draw nigh, man. Why we wait until something evil happens for us to turn towards God, man? Why? Why we do that? Why we move in that manner? Why we move in that in such a way? Tamshi.
As they were increased, so they transgressed against me. Therefore will I change their glory into shame.
Therefore, he said, I will change their glory into shame. The things that we gloried in, the things that God gloried in, he denounced it, despised it. He said, it's all a shame. He changed it to shame. It's a point in time in history that didn't mean nothing. the Yom Teruahs, the Kagmatzot, all this that we read about in the book that God gloried in, it didn't mean nothing. Nothing. Did away with our feast days. Did away with it. Read.
They eat up the iniquity of my people, and they set their heart on their iniquity.
They what?
They eat up the transgression of my people.
They eat up the sin of my people.
And they set their heart on their iniquity.
They set their heart on their iniquity. They have exalted themselves in their iniquity. They have supported themselves in their iniquities. Right? Read.
And there shall be like people, like priests, and I will punish them for their ways and reward them for their doings.
He said, what? And there shall be like people, like priests, and I will punish them. I will punish them for their ways and reward and return them their doings. I will punish them, okay, for their ways. You see what God punished us for? You see why God did the things that we did to us? Because when we read the book, all through the book, it says, amend your ways, O Israel. Amend your ways, O Israel. But we refuse to change our ways with God, man. You know why? Because of the thing called pride. There's a thing called self-esteem. And because I have so much self-esteem and I esteem myself so much that I esteem myself above God. I esteem myself above God. And because I esteem myself above God, I will only walk in the manner, in a way, I will begin to walk in my own ways. And it's not accepted by God. And if I say it ain't right, it ain't right. God said it's right. God agreed with it, but you don't agree with it. He said, and reward them their doings. To reward means to return them their doings. God will return your own doings upon your own head. Right. But one thing, when God is returning your own doings upon your own head, guess what? He multiplies it. He multiplies it 7 times more. Then he looked around, he said, if you don't hearken, he said, I will punish you 7 times more. Right. Oh, you don't want to hearken? I'm going to punish you 7 times more. So it comes greater than what it is.
Right.
For
they shall eat and not have enough.
They shall eat and not have enough.
They shall commit whoredom.
They shall commit whoredom.
And shall not increase.
And shall not increase.
Because they have left all to take heed to.
Because they have left all to take what? Heed to the Lord. Tamshi.
Whoredom and wine and new wine take away.
Whoredom and wine and new wine take away the heart. Huh? Whoredom and wine and new wine take away the heart. You will be inclined to your own heart's lust. You will be inclined to your own emotions. You will be inclined to your own thinking. Tamshi.
My people ask counsel at their stocks, and their staff declare it unto them.
Tamshi.
The spirit of whoredom had caused them to err.
The spirit of whoredom has caused them to err.
They have gone a
They have gone a whoring from under their God.
They sacrifice upon the top.
They sacrifice upon the top of the mountains. Read.
And burn upon the hills.
Read.
Under oaks and poplars.
Under oaks and poplars.
And elms.
And elms.
Because the shadow thereof is good. Therefore your daughters commit whoredom.
Therefore your daughters shall commit whoredom.
Therefore your daughters shall commit whoredom. And your spouses shall commit adultery.
And your spouses. In the Hebrew, it don't say spouses. It says in the word for spouses, it says kalotekem. Kalotekem means your daughter-in-law. Your daughters and your daughter-in-law shall commit whoredom. And why God did this to us? Why God caused us to go through this? Because we went astray from God. There's only one God, man. There's only one creator. And God has one way. God has established one way to follow him. And when we are not following that one way that God has established for us to follow, other things is going to transpire in our lives. Now, there's certain people that has turned away from God and has lived according to their own ways, and God has left them alone to his own fault. Because he don't care about you. God only chastises those who he loves. God only chastises those who he loves. And if God don't love you or he don't accept you, he gonna leave you to yourself. Because the Most High has guided the ways of the meek man. God has guided the meek. God has guided the pious. God has guided the upright man to follow in the ways of the Creator. He don't guide everybody. To know God is to know his laws, to accomplish his laws, to accomplish his commandments, to accomplish his statutes. Listen here, even God observed and observed the Sabbath. He said in the beginning, he said there was darkness upon the face of the deep. It said the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. God had to separate the darkness from the light. Now, this scientists came about and said there was found dark matter. This wasn't regular darkness like you cut my lights on. No, this was darkness that could be felt. Scientists found dark matter that was in the beginning. But why God left certain things around? To prove that I am God. And these things really did happen. There was a creation. This is the only book that gives us of creation on how it started, how it began. This is the only book. Read.
I will not punish your daughters when they commit whoredom, nor your spouses when they commit adultery. For themselves are separated with whores, and they sacrifice with harlots. Therefore, the people that doth not understand shall fall.
Therefore, the people that do not understand shall fall away, shall stray away. Tamshi.
Though thou, Israel, play the harlot, yet let not Judah offend. And come not ye into Gilgal, neither go ye up to Beth Aven, nor swear Elohim liveth. For Israel Israel slideth back as a backsliding heifer. That Elohim will feed them as a lamb in a large place.
Tamshi.
Ephraim is joined unto idols.
Ephraim. He said Ephraim is joined to idols. And my father taught me and told me, he said, when you want to find something and get to the bottom of certain things that you read it in the Hebrew. So I read this verse in the Hebrew. It says, kabod azabim. Right? Kabod means connected, joined, attached, associated, affiliated. He said, you are joined. He said, he is joined to idols. He said, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Azab also means images. In Exodus 20, it says, Lotan said, Fesel, Wekala, Temuna. If you don't know what Temuna is, I think everybody knows what Temuna is. Fesel is an idol. Temuna is pictures. So why do we have pictures? And then we voice and say certain things to justify what we do that is against God. It says plainly in the Hebrew, Temuna. Brother said, oh, I can have it. I ain't praying to it. Show me where it says God said you can have it, but don't pray to it.
Say it shall not make ye nor have
You can't make it or have it. So I got to stay away from these things that's going to denounce us with the Creator.
People get it twisted.
That's right.
Because it's a blurry line sometimes.
That's right.
People toe the line.
That's right. But there's a thing called pride, self-esteem. I esteem myself. There's too much esteem with myself for me to accept what God says. There's too much esteem with myself to accept what God says. Go ahead, read.
And they sacrifice with harlots, therefore the people that does not understand shall fall. Though thou Israel play the harlot, yet let not Yehuda offend, and come not ye unto Gilgal, neither go ye up to Beit Avon, nor swear Elohim liveth. For Israel slided back as a backsliding heifer, that Elohim will feed them as a lamb in a large place.
Okay, cut that. Let's go to Psalms. And after this is going to be my coming down chapter. Tamshi, go to Psalms. Psalms 15. No, go to Psalms 125. Go to 15 and then go to 125.
Psalms 15.
Okay.
Elohim, who shall abide in thy tabernacle?
Who shall abide? Who shall dwell in thy tabernacle? Read.
Who shall dwell in thy holy hill?
Who's going to dwell in thy holy hill? You know what's the holy hill? Mount Zion.
And he that walketh uprightly.
He that walketh. There's a certain manner that God has prescribed for us to walk. If we are not walking in that manner, we will not be accepted of God. We have to put everything aside. Like I said earlier, the Most High said, he said, there's a path. There's a straight and narrow path where you only see that one traveler. And there's a broad way that everybody is in. Everybody is in doing every and anything, which means they have not, these laws brings about restrictions. If you honor God, you will restrict yourself according to what God said. Holds you back from doing what the people is doing. A lot of restrictions. I was talking to you know what this Jewish chick said? She seen my kai, my head in my yard. She seen my friend and she came to me. She said, you know what that means? I said, yeah, I know what it means. It means life. She said, and you got fringes on. She said, she said, do you observe Shabbat? I said, of course, every week. I said, do you observe Shabbat? She said, no. I don't observe it because it's a lot. And she's right. It's a lot. And it takes a lot of willpower to observe this day because it restricts you. You got to restrict yourself from doing things that you like to do. Right? Now, it says what? He that walketh uprightly and worketh righteousness and speaketh the truth in his heart. What is uprightness? Is according to what God says. It says, and your deeds and your actions is righteousness. Okay. And speaking the truth in your heart. Say what you mean. That's when you speak the truth in your heart. You're saying exactly what you mean. Okay? Go ahead, read. Verse 3.
We're in Psalms 15, verse 3. He that backbiteth not with his tongue.
He that backbiteth not with his tongue.
Nor doeth evil to
the word for backbite, it means slander. You know what slander means? The word for slander is rakil. Rakil means slander. Slander is defamation of one's character. I say things about a person and I don't have truth about what I'm saying. I don't have no truth about what I'm saying, but I'm speaking like this against this person. Slander, he that backbited not with his tongue,
nor doeth evil to his neighbor.
Nor doeth evil to his neighbor. What is evil? Evil is according to what God said is evil, not according to what I say. What I say and what I say is evil or good, it doesn't count. Do God say it's evil? Did God look at this as good? Will God accept this as evil? Will God accept this as good? Because our minds is twisted. We call good evil and we call evil good. We accept things that God don't accept. We denounce and hate things that God loves. Go ahead.
Nor taketh up a reproach against his neighbor.
Nor taketh up a reproach against his kinsman. That's the word for neighbor. It means kinsman. And kinsman is deeper than neighbor. Kinsman is relatives, family, two brothers. Which means there is certain things are not to be voiced. This is shameful towards my brother, and I go and voice it. Certain things you got to hold it down because your shame is my shame. And my shame is supposed to be your shame. So certain things you will not voice. Tom, see? Okay, cut that. Go to Psalms 125. 125, and I'm going to shut it down.
Chapter 1, verse 25.
Psalms chapter 125.
Psalms 125, verse 1. Elohim, who shall abide in thy tabernacle?
He said, no, Psalms 125.
Okay. They that trust in Elohim.
They that trust in the Lord shall be as Mount Zion, which cannot be removed, but abideth forever. Why mention Mount Zion? Do you know scientists went to that mountain? You know what they said? They said sulfur. Sulfur is on the whole mountain range. He said it's like it's been burning for a long period of time. Sulfur only forms on a surface that has to do with fire. That's proof that God's presence alone has incinerated the whole mountain range. And the children of Israel seen that. Why God allowed the seed of Israel to see that? To prove them, so that his fear may be before their faces, that they sin not. What is sin? The book tells us what sin is. Go ahead, read.
As the mountains around
about Jerusalem. This is why Jerusalem was very hard to invade. Couldn't penetrate Jerusalem because it was surrounded by mountains. And when Jerusalem got invaded, that's when Hezekiah showed, I forgot the dude's name, showed him the secret passage underneath. And that's how we got invaded. They came from under. That's right. Tom Shee.
So Elohim is round about his people.
So the Lord is round about his people, even for henceforth, forevermore. Tom Shee.
For the rod of the wicked.
For the rod of the wicked.
Shall not rest.
What is the rod? When you look up the word for rod, it means the branch. Branch means the descendants, family from a particular ancestry. For the descendants or of the wicked shall not rest, shall not settle, shall not remain upon the lot of the righteous. There's two different portions. A lot is a portion. You have a portion that is required for the righteous, and the wicked don't have the same portion as the righteous. Their portion is different because the righteous lived in a certain way that God has chose. The wicked chose his own ways. Tom Shee.
Lest the righteous put forth their hands into iniquity.
Lest the righteous the only way my portion changes is when I sin against God. Tom Shee.
Do good, O Elohim.
Do good, O Lord, unto those that be good. Good. The book shows us what is good. We have to be good according to what God says. According to what the Creator said is good. Not according to what I think is good. Not according to how I feel is good. according to what God said is good. Because I may move in the way and think it's good, but it ain't good by God. It ain't accepted by God. So in order to learn what is accepted of God, that God said is good, I have to read this book. The book tells us and shows us what is good and what is evil. Tom, see?
And to them that are upright in their hearts.
To them that are upright in their hearts. The uprightness in your heart. Because I have a certain amount of uprightness in me, that's what stops you and put a block, stops you from doing things that is unlawful and unlawful by God. That's what stops me. Because I have a certain amount of uprightness. Now, everybody don't have that uprightness. Some people will do certain things and you look at them and say, man, how can you do this? Some have none. They don't have no, see, an upright man has boundaries. What are the boundaries? The boundaries are lines that you'll never cross. I've never crossed those lines. Tom, see?
As for such as turn aside
to their crooked ways,
Elohim shall lead them forth.
The Lord shall lead them forth with the workers of iniquity. You know what the word is for lead? Pa'al, pe ayin lamed. Pa'al means to make or to do. The Lord will cause you to move in that manner. The Lord will cause you, make you do sin, make you do things that is unlawful and right. He's going to feed you with the lust of your own heart. He shall lead them forth with the workers of iniquity.
But peace shall be
upon Israel. And with that, I hope everybody got what was bought. And I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Until next week.